What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 6KD Chapter 121 A historic scene that shocked the sea for hundreds of years. Quiet. The whole world seems to have fallen into silence. In an instant, anyone who saw the live broadcast had expressions of disbelief and horror on their cheeks, and even more could not help but gasped. Ancestors of the sea, they actually witnessed the ancestors of the sea. In the past, many people just saw the ancestors of the sea in the newspapers and learned about the deeds of the ancestors of the sea. Well now, through this live broadcast, they witnessed Luo Lei with their own eyes, and they also said that they want everyone to witness the historic moment and know what the real ancestor of the sea is. It's really shocking. Originally, everyone thought the Straw Hats attacked Wanokuni. As the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei should be thinking of a way to fight with all his heart. Now it's alright, there is no way to fight it, and there is also a live broadcast of the whole sea. How can this be the same as the execution of the 853 Army live broadcast of the Summit War Sea, same as Fire Fist Ace? Could it be that the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, thinks he has won, and is ready to publicly execute the leader of the Straw Hat Major League, Monkey D. Luffy? For a time, the sea stirs up 1,000 waves, not only those who saw the live broadcast, but even Naval Headquarters, Marine and Mariejois, and the Straw Hat Major League who received the news were shocked. Too unbelievable. The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is really too confident. More than self-confidence, this is the rhythm of publicly executing the leader of the Straw Hat Major League, Straw Hat Luffy. The ancestors of the sea are going to live broadcast, and now there is a good show to watch. Soon, one after another uproar sounded all over the sea. Many people involuntarily showed expectant and shocked expressions on their cheeks after they recovered. There is nothing to say. Since there is a live broadcast, of course, you must watch it carefully. You must know. This is the top war in the sea. Whoever wins or loses will determine the final direction of the sea. Holy Land Mariejois, among the flowers in the deepest part of the ancient city of Pan. On the mysterious void throne, I am abruptly opened his red eyes and looked at the live broadcast projected by the video phone bug not far away. Did not expect, advertisement I am really not expecting. The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, would choose to live broadcast in front of the whole sea. Originally, he also planned to let the 5 elders broadcast live, so that he could understand the latest battle situation on the battlefield in real time. It's alright now, no need, Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, is going to broadcast live, so after receiving the report, Yimu immediately asked his subordinates to broadcast the picture. I really don't know if you are confident or arrogant. I don't know how long it took. A cold look flashed in Yimu's expressionless eyes, and he muttered to himself, "Since you want to live broadcast, then I will let you shoot yourself in the foot. This is not the case. Once I'll show you what the true power of God is." That's right, this time I am going to do it himself. When the battle reaches a critical moment, she will take action in a way that dominates the world, thus shocking the entire sea. By that time, the whole sea would tremble under her godlike might. Therefore, under the instructions of Lord I Am, Marine and CP also began to act, not only did not obstruct the live broadcast of the news of the world, but also began to contribute to the fire, using their own intelligence network to start a large-scale broadcast. This time, many remote places have live broadcast pictures, and in a real sense, the whole sea is paying attention. New World, MARINEG-2 headquarters, in a conference room on the top floor. The Crane staff who stayed at Naval Headquarters, Momoshagi who was on vacation, and some Marines Vice Admiral Rear Admiral were gathered here, looking at the live broadcast on the screen in front of them with serious expressions. No one spoke, makes the atmosphere extremely dignified. That devilish man is actually going to broadcast live? Momoshagi folded his arms and watched the live broadcast with a blank face. He couldn't help recalling some pictures in his mind, and his inner anger was nowhere to be found. Eat clean, the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, really doesn't recognize people when he puts on his pants. This time she will witness the man fall to the altar with her own eyes. Hope the world government can win. Staff Officer Crane glanced at Momoshagi with a frosty face, and shook his head helplessly. Advertisement in the face of that kind of thing, Momoshagi will definitely not be able to come out in a short time, unless Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, is defeated. So after the live broadcast, the Crane staff called Momoshagi over to watch the battle together. Now everything is ready, only the east wind is owed. At the same time, the Straw Hat Major League, which was marching towards Wanokuni, got the news at the first time. When the live broadcast was broadcast, they happened to hear what Luo Lei said, and the entire Straw Hat Major League was angry. What's the situation? Haven't started fighting yet, and you're acting like you're taking over us. Do you really think our Straw Hat Major League are soft persimmons? We know you are strong, but are you too conceited? Do you look down on us? The clay figurines also have a 3-point fire, not to mention a group of rebellious pirates. In an instant, the anger of the Straw Hat Alliance is full, and they are rubbing their fists. There is a kind of taste that they want to teach the ancestors of the sea. After half an hour, 35 pirate ships of the Straw Hat League appeared in the waters near Wanokuni aggressively. However, upon reaching this sea, when the people from the Straw Hat Major League looked towards Wanokuni, all were shocked. Looking around, a huge ring appeared above Wanokuni, covering the entire Wanokuni, and a skeleton with a height of 10,000 meters was placed in the center of the ring. Or the arena is too big. As a result, the huge bones of the Elephant Lord are set off to be incomparably small. It just happened. The live broadcast screen also rotated a bit, giving Wanokuni a panoramic view. I saw a super big arena made of wood that was supported by countless towering trees and covered the entire Wanokuni. And on the left side of the arena, stands impressively the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei. However, when the live broadcast screen swept behind Luo Lei, the whole sea was silent for a while. 3.6. Many people who were a little older couldn't help rubbing their eyes, as if they thought they were wrong. But, no matter how you need, the live screen of Pirate King, Roger, Rox, Golden Lion Shiki, Whitebeard and others seemed to be standing there straight, but their faces were not very good looking. In short, the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei has resurrected One Piece, Roger, Golden Lion Shiki, Whitebeard and others. In an instant, the entire sea fell into a state of silence again. No one spoke, not even one eye movement, for fear of missing this historic scene. Because everyone knows this sea. At least it will be shocked by this god-level operation of the ancestors of the sea for hundreds of years. Chapter 122. The Silly Straw Hat League because everyone knows. This sea. At least it will be shocked by this god-level operation of the ancestors of the sea for hundreds of years. Just kidding, whether it is One Piece, Roger, Rox, or Golden Lion Shiki, Whitebeard, who is known as the world's strongest man, and Zephyr of Neo Marine, are all once famous existences. It turned out well, after resurrecting Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku, Redhead Shanks, Kaido, Charlotte Linlin. The ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei did not let go of the top sea powers who besieged him for more than 40 years, even if they died for many years, they resurrected them and became puppet tool people. It is really too flawed and must be reported, too unscrupulous. Thinking of this, many people watching the live broadcast in the sea felt their scalps tingle for a while, and their hearts shook. Of course, there are still some people who don't know who the people on the screen are, so they can't help showing extremely puzzled expressions. At this time, some humanized text appeared on the live broadcast screen. Let me explain it a little bit. Boom. The sea immediately set off a turbulent wave, which could not be calmed down at all. On the Void Throne, I am on the throne of Void, saw this scene, but showed an expression that had already seen through everything. Luo Lei sent Garp, Sengoku and others to dig graves everywhere, and he had already noticed it. So, a little thought, he knew that Luo Lei's secret technique that could resurrect the dead should be to take something from the dead. It was for this reason that he issued an order to the 5 elders to cooperate with the Straw Hat Alliance when necessary, and also made up his mind that he must take action at a critical moment, defeat Luo Lei, and use the secret technique that can resurrect the dead, in the sack. In addition to IM, the Crane staff of Naval Headquarters, Momosagi, and the 5 elders who were rushing to Wanokuni, Sakazuki, etc., although they had some psychological preparations, but when they really saw Rox, Roger and others after being resurrected, there was still some throbbing in his heart. You know, Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, was very strong, and he has resurrected so many legendary powerhouses? It's simply not giving the Straw Hat Major League a chance. It's really hard. No wonder Lord Yimu said that they would cooperate with the Straw Hat Major League when necessary. Is this something that was expected in advance? Therefore, under such circumstances, no one was amazed by the huge arena covering the entire Wanokuni. One Piece, Roger, Rox and others attracted a lot of attention. Advertisement at the same time, the Straw Hat Major League is also boiling. Looking at the huge arena covering the entire Wanokuni, and then watching the live broadcast screen, the pirates who were still gearing up for their efforts, their faces were a little stiff, they opened their mouths, want to say some tough words, but found that their own my heart seemed to be trembling, and I was a little stunned by the fright. F*K. Did you make a mistake? Originally they were shocked by the huge ring that covered Wanokuni. But they didn't expect that the real shock was still to come. Through the live broadcast, they saw Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, and Roger, Rox, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki and others who were standing in the ring. In addition to the already resurrected Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Garp and others. Not counting the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei, there are 11 combat powers comparable to the 4 Emperors level. Can this be beaten? Not to mention the cadres of the Beasts pirates, the cadres of the BIGMOM pirates? More importantly, it is said that after the resurrection, Kaido of the Beasts and others are just resurrected souls and have immortality. This is still a hammer. It feels like there is no chance of winning? What should I do now? Aren't we going to be in this arena? The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei is really too limitless. Even those who have been dead for many years have been resurrected. Even One Piece. Roger has been resurrected, so wouldn't the great secret treasure he left behind also be in the pocket of the great ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei? After a while, trembling voices came from the 35 pirate ships, and they all turned their attention to the Sunny in the middle. Leader, Straw Hat Luffy is there, at this time. On the deck of the Sunny, after seeing the resurrection of One Piece, Roger, Rox, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki and others, the atmosphere that was relatively relaxed suddenly froze. Even Luffy, who has always been full of confidence, is a little confused. Advertisement. What's the situation? Ancestors of the Great Sea, the 6th, played cards completely out of common sense, created such a big arena, and resurrected such a dead powerhouse. What else is there to play? Dignified. The atmosphere is extremely heavy. Now are we going to the Wanokuni ring? A few seconds later, seeing that no one was talking, Buggy hesitated for a moment, and said very seriously, "The ancestors of the sea are too mad. Even Captain Roger has been resurrected. Why don't we retreat strategically?" Tell the truth, Buggy really doesn't want to be involved in this big showdown. Well now, just arrived, the ancestors of the sea gave the Straw Hat League a slap in the face, so his heart was timid. "Go. You must go up." Hearing this, Marco suppressed the tears in his eyes and said with trembling, "Father Whitebeard has been resurrected. As his son, I must not back down. Even if I fail to win, I must beat." "Why don't you just forget it?" Giza's Badgers thought for a moment before saying slowly, "Now the ancestor of the sea. Luo Lei has resurrected so many strong people, it is clear that he has decided to kill us, and if we go further, we will be killing ourselves." 5. Seeking your own way. Kid gritted his teeth and said disdainfully, "If you're afraid, just say it. We've reached this stage, we must get on, or we'll be ridiculed and despised by the whole sea." "Who do you say is afraid?" Giza's Badgers said furiously. "I'm also thinking of everyone. Do I have to know that there are tigers in the mountains and go to the mountains?" Enough. Just when Kid wanted to say something, Straw Hat Luffy, who had never spoken, took a deep breath and interrupted Kid's voice. Immediately afterwards, in front of everyone's eyes, Luffy stood up and looked at the huge ring in Wanokuni, and said in a very firm tone, "Fight. You must fight. Even if you can't win, you have to fight." Chapter 123 Luffy. I rely on my own efforts. Fight. You have to fight. Even if you can't win, you have to fight. When it comes to the end, Straw Hat Luffy's tone was obviously a little crazy and violent, with extreme anger flashing in his eyes. Just now, he saw his grandfather, Garp, and the red-haired Shanks on the live broadcast, which made Luffy, who had calmed down in his heart, couldn't bear it any longer, and then he thought of Peaches being tortured, Hancock, Shirahoshi, the Fishman Island, Wanokuni, etc. All of them were taken into the bag by the unscrupulous ancestors of the sea. This made him have a monstrous anger in his heart. "I can't hold back at all. You know, starting from East Blue, he seems to be the favored son of the sky, and he has obtained the template of the protagonist. He, completely, relied on his own ability and strength to overcome all obstacles, and after all kinds of difficulties and obstacles, he finally ascended to the position of the 4 emperors and became the emperor who reigned over the Grand Line. But, all this changed completely after the resurrection of the ancestors of the sea. He is the arrogance of heaven, constantly being slapped in the face by Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, and then slapped in the face again. So, even if he saw the resurrected One Piece, Roger, Rocks, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr and others, Luffy didn't panic, and even wanted to laugh. Not to mention Roger and Rocks, Golden Lion Shiki, isn't Zephyr his underdog? Moreover, no matter how many people you are resurrected, he won't be afraid either, because he is Monkey D. Luffy, a man destined to surpass One Piece. After saying this, a terrifying energy wave surged from Luffy's body. However, the people who can be on this deck are all powerful and powerful people on the sea, and they are almost unaffected, but some of them are invisibly shocked by Luffy's firm will and indomitable spirit. Listen to this. Beckman picked up the cigarette and took a sip, nodded silently. Luffy is worthy of being Luffy. Even if the ancestors of the sea have already displayed their swords, they did not make him afraid, but made him more tenacious. Is it Luffy's unique personality degree? Kuzan murmured a few words. A lot of thoughts flashed through his mind, but he finally showed a look of interest. Advertisement. How far can Luffy, the sun god, go? He is looking forward to it more and more. This is the legendary spirit of Joy Boy. Pluton Rayleigh didn't know what he was thinking. A look of relief appeared on his cheeks involuntarily. Captain Roger's resurrection was something he didn't expect, but the way was different, since Captain Roger stood on the opposite side. Compare that, and you're done. As for winning or losing, it's just up to God's will. Sure enough, Shanks didn't see the wrong person. A ray of light flashed in Mihawk's sharp eyes. Hawkeye is still paying attention to Luffy's growth. He has never imagined that he can grow to such a level now. Therefore, since Luffy has said so, he is willing to accompany him to fight as the world's largest swordsman. Give it a try. It's getting more and more interesting. Crocodile's expression froze, and he smoked his cigar silently. Facing the resurrected legendary pirates, it was impossible without pressure, but the more so, the less likely he would be timid. My choice is indeed correct. Luo Po smiled casually. Luffy was indeed the man he liked. No need to worry about good times, bad times, or desperate times, because with Luffy, anything is possible. It is good. At this time, Zoro, who had not spoken, clenched the weapon in his hand, took a few steps forward with a firm expression, and said, "Luffy, no matter what decision you make, I will support you." Me too. Ha ha ha, our Straw Hat Pirates will not be afraid. 35. Luffy, if you say fight, then we'll fight with you. The big deal is death. What are you afraid of? With the beginning of Zoro, Sanji, Robin, Jinbei, Usopp and others all made their voices of incomparable determination. There is nothing to say, as the crew of the Straw Hat Pirates, they have gone through all kinds of storms along the way, and it is impossible for them to backstab Captain Luffy at a critical moment. In the face of the support of his loved ones, Luffy, who has always been very strong, finally couldn't hold back a little, and couldn't help crying, just like when his grandpa Garp beat him when he was young cried aloud. These days, he is under a lot of pressure, but he can only pretend to be calm. Now, there is no need to pretend, with such a group of close friends who support him. Advertisement. What are you afraid of? Win, he will win. You guys, seeing this touching scene, a helpless look appeared on Buggy's cheeks, and he said, really want to fight? Isn't this a joke? Beat. Okay. Afraid of a hammer? 55. The Luffy leader is not afraid, and neither are we. 35. A few seconds later, it seemed that they were infected, and Uda, Usopp, Marco, Kid, Badgers, Poison Q, Reiki Lu and others all made a sound of reconciliation. People such as Garrett, Perona and others cried emotionally. It is good. After a while, Luffy wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and ordered loudly. Let's go. Swish. The voice did not fall, with a cracking sound. Luffy took the lead and flew out. Qian Li Hao. Go. 35. Zoro, Sanji, Robin, Nami and others followed almost without hesitation. Let's go too. Kuzan whispered to the leader of the Blackbeard pirates. If anyone doesn't go, I will kill him, so. Not finished, Kuzan has disappeared from the deck. We understand. Shiryu, Badgers, Vanoka and the others shook their heads and followed in no particular order. Followed by Kid Pirates, Heart Pirates, Red Hair Pirates, Pluton Rayleigh, Straw Hats and some giants of the underground dark forces, all flew towards the huge ring covering Wanokuni. J. Chapter 124. The real decisive battle is about to begin. The arena made of wood covered with Wanokuni is very large. Because of its high height, there are a lot of ladders around the arena for the convenience of others to climb up. So, during the live broadcast, I saw a picture of some members of the Straw Hat Major League scrambling to climb the ladder. Of course, some of the stronger ones are the 8 immortals who have shown their magical powers across the sea, using their own means to fly away towards the arena. For example, Luffy extended his arm, grabbed the ring, and then used the reaction force of the rubber to stretch and jump in a straight line, standing directly on the ring. Marco turned into a phoenix and flew up. Kuzan stepped on it leisurely. Moonwalk and more. Do you want to continue fighting? The Straw Hats are going to bite the bullet. 35. The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei has resurrected so many legendary powerhouses, isn't Luffy afraid? 99. F*K. It looks like a war is inevitable. Look, there are still most of the Straw Hat Major League members. It seems that they have started to retreat. Is this an internal disagreement? Seeing this live broadcast, the people who were still immersed in the shock of the resurrection of Roger, Rox and others suddenly became ecstatic, and showed disbelieving expressions in no particular order. What's the situation? The ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei has already shown his sword. The Straw Hat Major League is still going. Even if there are internal differences, it is going to be up. This is the rhythm of whether it is successful or not, and the rhythm of hard **** with the ancestors of the sea. At the same time, a corner of the huge ring, most of the Straw Hats have gathered together. However, compared with the more than 10,000 people who came here, there are only less than 1,853 people now. At the last moment, more than 9,000 people chose to quit. Obviously, no matter how the Straw Hat Luffy's touching true feelings and steel like wool can be used, it will not change the fear and timidity of many people. After all, the enemies facing this time are not only the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei, but also Rox, Roger, Whitebeard and other famous legendary pirates. The only good news, perhaps the ones who quit are some middle and low-level combat powers. They are not in enough realm to feel Luffy's unique personality charm, and the high-end combat powers almost never quit, which can be regarded as not hurting their bones. Luo Lei shined his sword, but helped us to further screen the Straw Hat Major League. Rayleigh glanced at some of the people who followed, and said meaningfully, "Take the essence, get rid of the dross, now we are the real Straw Hat League." That's right, the current Straw Hat Major League has truly entered the complete body. Hearing this sentence, Uda clenched her teeth tightly and said in a firm tone, "As long as we are united, we will succeed, even if we die. We will drag the ancestors of the sea to the altar." Ha ha ha, 35 Kid showed an extremely violent look, and laughed loudly. "Since you have already boarded this arena, then prepare to fight back." 35. Luffy, let's go. Zoro's cheeks flashed with incomparable fighting intent, and said, "Whether it is a loss or a win, we have to let the ancestors of the sea see the true strength of our Straw Hat League." It is good. Everyone obeys the order and heads straight ahead. Seeing that those who exited were all mid to low-end combat power, Luffy nodded expressionlessly and looked towards the central area of the arena. Under the perception of observation hockey, he could clearly know that the ancestors of the sea Luo Lei, Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Grandpa Garp and others are standing there, waiting for them. 47 inches advertisement. Walk, it's done. Swish, swish, swish. The next moment, accompanied by the sound of breaking air. The coalition forces of the Straw Hat Alliance with less than 1,000 people flew towards the central area of the arena. The other side, the center of the ring, Luo Lei is standing at the front with a calm face, and at the back are Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, red-haired Shanks, Sengoku, Roger, Rox, Whitebeard, etc. As for Hancock, Kazuki Hiyori, from the Fishmen Island Shirahoshi, Neptune, Jin, Quinn, Jack, Perispero, Katakuri and others who came here stood at the back. Not far away, Morgans was holding a phone bug in his hand and was constantly issuing orders. The movements of his hands were not idle, and he was switching live broadcasts from various shooting angles. Coming. Suddenly, Morgans raised his head and said, Lord Luo Lei, Straw Hat Luffy and others are attacking us. Understood. The corners of Luo Lei's mouth twitched slightly and said, I wasn't frightened, as expected of a Straw Hat Luffy. Alas. 35, it's finally here, then it's up to Luffy himself. After hearing this, Garp, Sengoku, and red-haired Shanks who were standing behind Luo Lei looked at each other, and they could see the helplessness in their eyes. After all, the development of things was the last thing they wanted to see. Seen. It's a big loss this time. 35 Rocks smiled bitterly and shook his head helplessly. As a super pirate more than 40 years ago, he did not expect to be resurrected and whipped by Luo Lei more than 40 years later. This feeling is really too uncomfortable. However, when he thought that he was dead, Rocks was relieved, and he planned to have a good look at Luffy, the Straw Hat who developed rubber fruit into Renren fruit, phantom species, and Nika. In this war, the legendary Joey Bowie may also appear in the world, and there are still some expectations after thinking about it. My son died? Or was he publicly executed by Marine? Beside, One Piece. Roger stood there in a daze, just now, in the chat with Garp. He knew what happened in the sea over the years, and also knew that his son Ace was already dead, just like him, both he was publicly executed by Marine. This news made Roger feel like he was struck by lightning, and the whole person became confused. As a famous One Piece, he can be worthy of anyone in his life, that is, he is sorry for Portgas D. Rouge and the Portgas D. Ace who died before they met. It's good now, he was resurrected, but Rouge and Ace died? This made Roger unacceptable at all, and he didn't even care about the shame and discomfort brought by the live broadcast. Whitebeard clenched his fist helplessly and said apologetically, Roger, I'm sorry. No. I don't blame you. Roger endured the pain in his heart and said with a wry smile. This? Maybe Ace's life. It's my own father who is the Pirate King who is sorry for him. Ace deserves to be killed. Blackbeard shrugged his shoulders disdainfully and said, I am arrogant and self-righteous, thinking that everyone is going to revolve around him, who will die if he doesn't die. Father Whitebeard, you have really lost 8 lifetimes for such a son. Advertisement, bad son. To shut up, Whitebeard and Roger's expressions changed, and they sighed in anger. Ha ha, Blackbeard was not afraid, and sneered slowly. Ace is such a brain-dead person, he is still alive, of course, I also want to thank him, otherwise, how could I become the first person with dual fruit ability in history, to replace Father Whitebeard and become the new one? The 4 emperors? To hear Blackbeard belittle his son, Whitebeard and Roger were burning with anger. If it wasn't for their bodies, they would both want to kill Blackbeard's humanitarianism. Especially Whitebeard, listening to Blackbeard's sarcastic words, was so angry that even their souls trembled. I have seen unfilial sons. I've never seen a son like Blackbeard who died once without any remorse, but instead has some unfilial sons who have intensified. Can you be quiet a bit? Zephyr crossed his arms and said speechlessly. We are in the same camp now, it's no use arguing. I really don't know how to make noise every day, aren't you tired? Golden Lion Shiki grinned and replied, it's live streaming now? You're so arrogant, you've been humiliated and thrown into the ocean. 99. Humph. Humph, after this sentence, with 2 cold hums. Whitebeard and Roger glanced at Blackbeard and said nothing more. Ha ha ha, sudden, just at this time, Kaido of the Beasts, who had not spoken for a long time, lit up and laughed. The people from the Straw Hat Major League are here. Come yet? Whitebeard, Roger, red-haired Shanks, Garp, Sengoku, Zephyr, Rocks and others all looked straight ahead, only to see black shadows appearing where the ground of the ring meets the sky. As the distance got closer, the Straw Hat Major League, headed by Straw Hat Luffy, Zoro, Kuzan, Hawkeye Mihawk and others, was impressive. Finally, after 5 minutes, the people from the Straw Hat Major League stopped 500 meters away from Luo Lei and others. Quiet. No one spoke, makes the scene a silence and depression. Do not more specifically, seeing the live broadcast of this confrontation, the entire sea became quiet at this moment. Because, as everyone knows, the real Armageddon is about to begin. Chapter 125 Want to teach me to do things again? Slapped to death. Because, as everyone knows, the real Armageddon is about to begin. On one side is the menacing Straw Hat League, and on the other is Luo Lei, an ancestor of the sea who has been ready to stand by. Neither side is a fuel-efficient lamp. Silence. Both looked at each other, it made the scene inadvertently fall into a silent confrontation. Daddy Whitebeard. I miss you. A few minutes later, Marco suppressed the tears in his eyes, and finally couldn't help shouting excitedly. Don't worry, no matter what, I will not let you down, even if there is no father's protection, we too can thrive on the sea. 5. Gula Whitebeard, who had been unable to hold back for a long time, couldn't help showing a doting expression, and laughed very gratified. Marco, your choice is correct, Dad is proud of you. Daddy 39. The voice did not fall, not only Marco, but also the captains of the White Regiment with Vista, Joes, Bramink, etc. clenched their fists, lowered their heads, and made a slightly crying voice. After the death of Father Whitebeard, the Whitebeard pirate group collapsed and scattered. Not only did the site disappear, but even the members of the various squads suffered heavy losses, but the most difficult period of time, it has survived, and now, the Whitebeard pirates will no longer be low-key. Final battle, they have to play a style that is unique to the Whitebeard pirates. Dad Shanks. Uda looked at the red-haired Shanks from afar, waved his fists, and said with tears in his eyes, "I won't let you down either, don't worry, I will try my best to defeat the ancestors of the sea and liberate you. Soul. Boss Idiot, we're here too. I didn't expect us to be on the opposite side of the red-haired boss. Boss Idiot, we won't show mercy." With Uda's voice, Yasop, Reiki Lu, Dejay, Bendik Snake and others couldn't suppress their inner emotional fluctuations, and they made a sound that seemed to be very free and easy. For them, even if the red-haired Shanks were resurrected to stand on the opposite side, they were still their undisputed boss. Very good. After hearing these words, red-haired Shanks shook his red hair and nodded with great relief, and said nothing more. He was afraid that the moment he opened his mouth, his weak and incompetent side would be exposed. In the past, he always asked others to give him a face. Now, he has no face at all, and he is really uncomfortable. Grandpa Garp. Luffy glanced at Luo Lei solemnly, then looked at Garp in a flash, and said solemnly, "I have grown up, this time, I will prove myself, avenge you, avenge some good friends, fight for your own beliefs and aspirations." After saying this, Luffy turned his eyes and looked at Hancock, Kazuki Hiyori, Shirahoshi, Yamato at the back, and by coincidence, Hancock and others also looked at Luffy. Look at each other. Luffy, who still had hope in his heart, sank in his heart, and his heart suddenly became bad. Because, he found that Hancock, Kazuki Hiyori, Shirahoshi, Yamato's eyes did not have any emotional fluctuations, just like looking at a stranger, and Shirahoshi's eyes also showed a sneering color. Where's there a mermaid? Is it silly and sweet on the island? Why? That is why. How can people be so fickle? It wasn't like this at the beginning? Why did everything change after the appearance of the ancestors of the sea? Luffy felt a little broken in his heart. Originally, he thought that Hancock, Kazuki Hiyori, Shirahoshi, Yamato had to give in because of the power of the ancestors of the sea. Now that he saw his good friend and savior, he should be excited and happy. That's right. Advertisement. The result is good, the hope is as great as the disappointment. Hancock, Kazuki Hiyori, Shirahoshi, Yamato didn't react at all. He's being selfish. Luffy, you've grown up. Garp stretched out his fist and said, "No matter what you decide, Grandpa will support you." 99. Sengoku hesitated for a moment, then quickly added, "Luffy boy, come on." 35. Okay. 39. Luffy endured the pain of his heartbreak, looked at Shanks again, took the straw hat off his head, and said solemnly, "Shanks, I will definitely not let you down." 35. Shanks smiled and nodded. He knew very well that the outcome depended only on Luffy alone. If he could explode wildly, everything would be easy to say. If he couldn't, he could only accept his fate. Badgers, Shiryu, Vanoka, don't you have anything to say to me? Blackbeard, who had been waiting for a long time, was a little unhappy when he saw that everyone else was complaining to each other. Have the officers of the Blackbeard Pirates of the Dog Day forgotten about him as the captain? You need to know the power fruit of Badgers, the transparent fruit of Shiryu, the paramecia and teleportation fruit of Vanoka, the paramecia of Poison Q and the diseased fruit, the strong zone, the pony fruit, the phantom species and the Pegasus form devil fruit. Did he help the hunt? Don't recognize people now. It's better to forget how the captain treats them. Badgers, Shiryu, Vanoka and others showed extremely embarrassed expressions, opened their mouths and wanted to say something, but due to Kuzan's power, they finally showed a very sorry expression at Blackbeard. The meaning of the expression is very simple. One day the Emperor and one courtier, we are now the crew of the Aokiji pirates, and we already have a new boss, so it's really not suitable for contact. Not to mention, everyone is a vicious pirate. Do you still want them to show their true feelings? Stop joking, boss. Damn. Blackbeard cursed darkly. Besides, there are also some pirates from the Straw Hat Major League who have their sights set on Roger, Rox, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr. Of course, most of the eyes are focused on Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea who seems to be harmless to humans and animals and shows a smile of Azu. If you look carefully, you will find that these eyes are filled with fear, trembling and other complex expressions. No way, it's the man in front of me. An era was suppressed more than 40 years ago. Now that he is resurrected, he has not restrained in the slightest, but has become more and more unscrupulous, doing whatever he wants, making the current sea miserable. After all, no one wants to have an ancestor on their head, unless the ancestor is themselves, so everyone is afraid of the ancestors of the sea, but everyone wants to be the ancestors of the sea. This is the most real thing in many people's heart's portraiture. Luo Lei, don't you have any respect for the dead in your heart? But, just at this time, Pluton Rayleigh took a deep breath, glanced at the resurrected Captain Roger, and said resolutely, "You resurrect the dead and become your puppet tool man, you really have no limits, really of." Snapped. It's not over yet, a crisp voice resounded. Even before Pluton Rayleigh felt disgusted, his body flew upside down and slammed into the ground hundreds of meters away. Okay. How fast? Advertisement. How is this possible? Observation Haki doesn't perceive it at all. As soon as a strong man makes a move, he will know if there is any. Many people have not yet responded to the sudden move of the ancestors of the sea. To be more precise, Luo Lei's move is too fast. Fly Pluton Rayleigh, back to the same place. Asking for flowers, including the people watching the live broadcast in various places in the sea, all rubbed their eyes. What's the matter? They didn't blink their eyes, and Rayleigh was already kicked out. How can there be such a terrifying speed just based on the body? At this moment, the most horrified and unbelievable were the rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki and others standing behind Luo Lei. All of them widened their eyes and showed disbelief. Just a moment, they didn't find out how Luo Lei did it, and there was no energy fluctuation, and Pluton Rayleigh was slapped and thrown out. Thinking deeply, doesn't it mean that Luo Lei's physical movement speed has reached a point where even a powerhouse of their level can't react? How fast should it be? 40 years ago it didn't seem so scary, even if it is resurrected after more than 40 years, there must be a limit to becoming stronger, right? He's getting faster again. Next to him, the red-haired Shanks froze for a moment, then said with hindsight. When I fought with him, my observation Haki still sensed it, but now it's completely invisible. Ha ha ha, Blackbeard grinned and said, if I'm not mistaken, Lord Luo Lei is getting stronger every moment, isn't it normal that the speed is getting faster? That's right, Kaido of the Beast smiled violently and said violently, Lord Luo Lei is very strong, the Straw Hat League is here to deliver food. The Straw Hats are doomed. Charlotte Linlin added with a cold expression. This live broadcast in front of the entire sea is to tell the entire sea that all those who are enemies of Lord Luo Lei have to pay the price. 5. Lord Luo Lei is amazing. Jin, Quinn, Jack, Parasparrow, Katakuri and others who stood at the back also showed happy expressions. That's right, they were arranged to stand here because their strength was too weak, and they only needed to watch the battle and shout 666. Compared to the happiness of Jin and the others, the pirates of the Straw Hat League were a little confused. Even Kuzan, Kid, Mihawk, Crocodile, Uda, Zoro and others were stunned. They knew the ancestors of the sea. He was very strong, but he didn't expect to be so outrageously strong, and without realizing it, he slapped Rayleigh in the face. What a terrible speed this is. It seems to be much faster than Kizaru, one of the three. Rayleigh, are you all right? After a while, he seemed to have reacted, Beckman reacted, and he wanted to lift Rayleigh up in a flash, but found that Rayleigh's head was covered in blood, his eyes had burst, and his entire skull had been smashed and fractured. People vomited blood constantly on the ground. Let Luffy. Before the words were finished, Pluton Rayleigh lay dead in Beckman's arms. 37. The deputy captain of the Roger Pirates, Pluton Rayleigh, known as the right wrist of the Pirate King, was slapped to death by the ancestors of the sea. Rayleigh, are you worthy of teaching me how to do things? 39. And it was at this time that Luo Lei said calmly, I have given you a chance on Nine Snake Island, and now you come again. Do you really dare to kill you? 99. To be honest, Luo Lei was in a good mood at the Nine Snake Island. Now Pluton Rayleigh is still here, and it's really funny. Of course, he was merciful just after the shot, and he didn't use much force, but he didn't expect that Rayleigh would be slapped to death with such a slap in the face. Chapter 126 Empress Shirahoshi is very moist, one more kneeling and begging to subscribe. Quiet. Following Luo Lei's voice, the whole sea fell into silence. Whether it is the people at the scene or the countless people watching the live broadcast on the sea, their hearts are almost involuntarily blank, and they just feel as if they are dreaming. The war has not yet begun. The ancestors of the sea slapped Pluton Rayleigh to death. It's like crushing an ant, it's too shocking. You know, this is Pluton Rayleigh, the vice captain of the Roger Pirates, known as the right arm of the Pirate King. Although he is old, he shouldn't be beaten like this, right? Well now, just started the Straw Hat Major League and died a high-end combat power. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds with the passage of time. It was not until Beckman settled Pluton Rayleigh's corpse, 857, and returned to the front of the Straw Hat Major League with a heavy face, and everyone who was in a frozen state suddenly came back to his senses. What? Pluton Rayleigh is actually dead? Hey, isn't that true? The next moment, some of the pirates of the Straw Hat League were startled. Their whole body was in cold sweat, and they almost fell to the ground in fright. What's the situation? Originally everyone thought it was just a fan of Pluton Rayleigh. But they didn't think that this was a fan, but slapped Pluton Rayleigh to death, which made them a little unbelievable. It is really too outrageous that the ancestors of the sea are strong. Even Kuzan, Hawkeye Mihawk, Crocodile, Uda, Marco and others couldn't keep their calm expressions. All of them showed extremely incredible expressions. Rayleigh is dead. At this time, Shaki's mouth with a cigarette trembled a few times, and then his face turned dead gray, and he slumped on the ground all of a sudden. Do you died? Zoro, Sanji, Robin, Nami, Usopp and others also showed extremely sad expressions. Advertisement there very clear, Luffy was about to fall into a state of grief again. The other side, Roger, Rocks, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki and others fell into a state of stunned after feeling that Rayleigh had died. After realizing it, they all showed bitter smiles. They didn't think Luo Lei killed Pluton Rayleigh with a simple slap. Roger's heart is the most painful. His wife and son are dead, his old friend, Rayleigh, is dead again. How strong is Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, in front of him? The invisible pressure is even more terrifying than it was more than 40 years ago, and it seems to have reached a level beyond everyone's perception. What a terrifying monster is this? Luffy, is there really any hope of defeating the ancestors of the sea? Sengoku and Garp looked at each other, and they could see the doubts in their eyes. They were full of confidence in Luffy, but with Luo Lei's casual hand, they suddenly lost confidence in their hearts. Too difficult. Shanks shook his head helplessly, still a little disappointed in his heart. He knew very well what Pluton Rayleigh wanted to do, that is, he wanted to stand on the moral high ground before going to war, condemning the ancestors of the sea, a pinch of Luo Lei's majesty and haki in front of the whole sea. But he didn't expect that Luo Lei would act unscrupulously even in front of the whole sea, playing cards completely out of common sense. It can only be said that Rayleigh miscalculated and overestimated Luo Lei's inner limit. At this time, after realizing that Rayleigh was dead, Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Blackbeard, Jin, Quinn and others were the most calm, and it seemed that they were already mentally prepared for Lord Luo Lei's behavior. Luffy, what's wrong with you? But, just at this time, Chopper was shocked and looked at Luffy subconsciously, only to find that Luffy kept his head down and his body was shaking slightly, as if he had received some huge stimulus. Luffy? 35. Are you okay? You can't go wrong, or we'll be finished for the Straw Hats. The next moment, Zoro, Sanji, Nami, Robin and others gathered around Luffy, looking at Luffy with worried and nervous eyes, fearing that the death of Pluton Rayleigh would hit Luffy's self-confidence and courage. Advertisement, I'm fine. After hearing these words, with his head lowered, Luffy clenched his fists, and a ray of pain flashed in his eyes. Because just when Luo Lei made his move, he was a little aware of it, and after a little hesitation, Pluton Rayleigh was fanned out, and then, there was an incomparably playful voice in his ear. Hancock, Shirahoshi, Kazuki Hiyori are very moist. In other words, in a very short period of time, the great ancestor slapped Rayleigh and left a sentence in his ear. This time Luffy was a little confused, not only physically, but also mentally. He was hit hard, especially Luo Lei said that Hancock, Shirahoshi, Kazuki Hiyori are very moist, so Luffy's heart is still vaguely inexplicable heartache and anger. Next, the fan teacher Rayleigh also died. This is like adding fuel to the fire, making Luffy more and more painful, and his soul is trembling slightly. Why? Why exactly? Ancestor of the great ocean, how could Luo Lei act so recklessly and deliberately against him? He, Monkey D. Luffy, who wants to do things for the sky, will never tolerate people who do what they want and still exist on the sea. Luffy, are you really okay? Seeing Luffy like this, Zoro couldn't help but said with a hint of worry. Can you cheer up? After all, you are the pinnacle of our Straw Hat League. Ha ha ha, I know. After hearing this, Luffy suppressed the pain in his heart, and suddenly burst out laughing, his eyes full of murderous intent. 3.6 suddenly looked at Luo Lei. Have nothing to say, the desire to kill one cannot be concealed, the man in front of him completely annoyed him and must die. It doesn't matter who comes, with a terrifying breath fluctuating. Luffy took a deep breath and wanted to explode completely. Seeing Luffy's appearance, some high-end combat powers of the Straw Hat Major League also suppressed their inner throbbing and entered a state of battle. However, at the critical moment, Luo Lei glanced at Luffy, who was about to enter the 5th gear, and said calmly, "Wait a moment, time is limited, I want to get rid of you all at once." Chapter 127 shocked countless people, pirates, world government, and the Revolutionary Army are about to cooperate. What does it mean? After listening to this sentence, the high-end combat powers of the Straw Hat Major League, who had already entered the battle state, were a little confused. Even Luffy, who had entered the outbreak state, came to an emergency break, showing a dazed and puzzled expression. What's the situation? All of us from the Straw Hat Major League are here. You have limited time, and if you want to solve us all at once, then just do it directly and say this nonsense. All right. Not only the pirates of the Straw Hat League, but even Roger, Shanks, Rocks, Whitebeard, etc., as well as countless people watching the live broadcast in the sea, are a little confused. How could Luo Lei lose the chain at a critical moment? After Pluton Rayleigh was slapped to death, originally, the hatred between the two sides had already filled up, and a decisive battle had inevitably broken out. However, at such a wonderful moment, Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, said such an inexplicable sentence, which made everyone confused. However, some are dazed, some are startled, at this moment, on a sea area a little further away from Wanokuni. A Marine's top warship is floating on the sea, on deck. The breath is very oppressive, many Marine soldiers and guards of the world government had cold sweat dripping from their foreheads. They lowered their heads and didn't dare to breathe. There were people on the deck, and their status was too high. 5 elders, Marine Marshal Sakazuki, Marine 3 Admiral Kizaru, Green Bull, Fujitora, and Dark Horse, 6 chiefs of CPO. These top combat powers of the world government actually dispatched together 19. How terrible is this? Especially after the words of Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, the faces of the 5 elders, Sakazuki and others suddenly turned gloomy, making the atmosphere even more depressing. Damn. 35 The next moment, The bald-headed 5 elders shouted angrily and said, "We are far enough away from Wanokuni, yet we are still perceived by the ancestors of the sea. How strong is his perception? Is this the rhythm that forces us to show up?" The bearded 5 elders said coldly with a gloomy expression. "This ancestor of the sea seems to want to slap the face of our world government in front of the entire sea." 39. "That's right." The blonde-haired 5 elders nodded, gritted their teeth and added, "The great ocean ancestors are truly heart-wrenching. Originally, they still want to wait, at least when the Straw Hat Alliance and the great ocean ancestor are in full swing, they will join the battlefield. It's good now, has been perceived in advance by the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, and said that they will be solved together with the Straw Hat League. What makes the 5 elders face even more is that once they show up to deal with the ancestors of the sea, it means that they will join forces with the Straw Hat League in front of the entire sea. World government and pirates joined forces. As soon as the news came out, you didn't have to think about it to know that the sea would explode in an instant. It's terrifying. This speed puts a lot of pressure on me." Kizaru rarely lost his condescending expression, and said solemnly, "I slapped the elderly Pluton Rayleigh to death. This Luo Lei is not easy to deal with." Advertisement: Luo Lei's wood style is too scary, isn't it? Green Bull shook his head solemnly and sighed. To create a wooden ring that covers the entire Wanokuni, the consumption of chakra is a huge amount. Could it be that the chakra of the ancestors of the sea is inexhaustible? 5. What should I do now? The dark horse looked at Sakazuki and said, since Luo Lei said that, he must have wanted to wait for us to show up before he started. Since he said so, then let's show up. Akainu spoke heavily, perhaps because he was too angry. His clenched fists had a tendency to turn into magma, and there was undisguised killing intent in his eyes. That's right. I agree with Sakazuki. Let's show up. This Luo Lei is very arrogant and doesn't take anyone in his eyes. Since he wants to solve us together, that's what he wants. The 6 CPO chiefs wearing masks made incomparably sharp voices in no particular order. Fine. The 5 elders with the highest status in the 5 elders glanced at the live broadcast and said with a blank face, "You go to Wanokuni, the 5 of us will hide in the dark for now." Good. 35 After hearing this, Sakazuki, Kizaru, Green Bull, Fujitora, Dark Horse, and the 6 CPO chiefs all lit up and nodded in succession. They go first. 5 elders hide behind to reap the endgame, plus a mysterious and unpredictable Lord I Am. World government and marine are hard to lose, and the winner will definitely take all. As for the breath of the 5 elders, when they left the Holy Land Mariejois, they were forcibly covered up by Lord Yimu, and they only erupted when they started. Therefore, the ancestors of the sea sensed Marine's worship, but they should not have noticed it. The breath of the 5 elders' presence, the other side. It is still a little far from Wanokuni in the sea. Looking around, I saw a pirate ship of the Revolutionary Army floating on the sea. Damn. Looks like we've been discovered. Lord Dragon, what should we do now? Are we going to show up? 39. The ancestors of the sea want to clean up us together, it's just too arrogant. On the deck, the cadres of the Revolutionary Army were a little anxious. They hid so far, and they were all discovered. This ancestor of the sea is a dog, right? That's right, the Revolutionary Army is also waiting. On the one hand, they are waiting for the Straw Hat Alliance to fight the Great Ocean Ancestors, and on the other hand, they are waiting for the world government and marine to take action. These days, although the world government's mobilization is very secretive, some spies who were placed in the world government by the Revolutionary Army have learned some secret information. As for the specific people who shot, the Revolutionary Army has not yet found out. Now that it is good, they are still waiting, but the ancestors of the sea are the first to speak. Judging from the tone of voice and Liao Ren's smile, he definitely sensed that someone wanted the mantis to catch the cicada oriole behind him, but he didn't know whether it was Marine who sensed it or their Revolutionary Army. We were found, or let's go. Sabo hesitated for a moment, and then said firmly, no matter what, I don't want Luffy to face the ancestors of the sea alone. This, Monkey D. Dragon frowned, took a deep breath. But, just when Monkey D. Dragon was about to say something. On the live broadcast, Luo Lei seemed to be a little impatient, and said a surprising sentence, World Government, Marine and Revolutionary Army, what are you waiting for? Do you have to wait for me to come to you in person? What a bunch of rubbish. Walk. Advertisement Monkey D. Dragon took a deep look at the live broadcast, and the last bit of luck in his heart was gone, so he simply ordered a sentence. The unscrupulous appearance of this ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei seems to have eaten everyone. Hide in the dark, there is no need for it, especially after hearing the 6 words of a group of trash. Monkey D. Dragon no longer wanted to endure it. Ancestor of the Great Ocean, Luo Lei, our Revolutionary Army is going to F***KU, just because you are more arrogant than the world government, and you have no bottom line. At the same time, boom, as this sentence came out. The sudden show flashed the waists of countless people. Pirates of the Straw Hat Major League, as well as Roger, Shanks, Rocks, Whitebeard and others, including countless people watching the live broadcast in the sea, all set off a stormy wave in their hearts. Did not expect, no one thought. The phrase Luo Lei said wants to get rid of you all at once, specifically refers to the Straw Hat Alliance, the world government, and the Revolutionary Army. In other words, ancestors of the Great Sea, Luo Lei is going to hit 3,857 with an unprecedented one. Shocking. Extremely shocking. After all, neither the Straw Hat League nor the Revolutionary Army are fuel-efficient lamps. Needless to say, the Straw Hat Alliance has concentrated a large amount of high-end combat power. The Revolutionary Army is actually not weak, especially Monkey D. Dragon, which is also recognized by the world government as the most vicious criminal in the world. As for world government, then there is no need to say more. It has ruled the sea for more than 800 years, and it is a super powerful behemoth. Well now, listening to Luo Lei's meaning, it seems that these three forces have come, quite a kind of meaning to temporarily abandon the old hatred, and jointly deal with the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei. This suddenly subverted the three views of countless forbearance. The world government wants to cooperate with the pirates and the Revolutionary Army in order to deal with Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea. Is this the weakness of the world government, or the cowardice of Yimu, or the incompetence of the five elders? It can only be said that the ancestors of the great ocean are too strong, so that the world government has lowered its arrogant head and put down its own figure. At the same time, are the people from the Revolutionary Army and the world government also here? F*K. Are they all to deal with the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei? This, isn't it true? Accompanied by an uproar. The pirates of the Straw Hat League, who were still in a state of doubt, were all beaming with joy. Did the surprise come too suddenly? Originally, everyone was slapped to death by the ancestors of the sea, and Rayleigh was shocked and frightened. The good news came out in the next second. It turned out that people from the world government and the Revolutionary Army were also nearby. Hearing the tone of Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, it seemed that he was also trying to deal with him. Sure enough, in the face of the great ancestors who can do whatever they want, even the world government and the Revolutionary Army can't bear it. Chapter 128 Five Elders Get Out, Six Paths Ancestors. I didn't expect that the world government and the Revolutionary Army would also join the war. At this time, Beckman, Kuzan, Hawkeye Mahawk, Buggy, Zoro, Sanji, Marco and other high-end combat power of the Straw Hat Major League also reacted. Judging from Rayleigh being killed without resistance, the Straw Hat Alliance wants to deal with the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei, and those legendary powerhouses who have been resurrected. There is still great pressure. Now, once the world government and the Revolutionary Army join the war, the pressure of the Straw Hat Alliance will undoubtedly increase. Much less. And when they think that the world government and the Revolutionary Army still want to hide behind and watch the fire from the other side, Beckman and others want to laugh. Let's come out and deal with the ancestors of the sea together. The Revolutionary Army is going to join the war? At this time, Luffy, who had paused the outbreak, suppressed the pain in his heart, frowned, and couldn't help muttering to himself. Doesn't that mean that my father will also join the war? Luffy has very little memory of his own father, or more precisely, almost none. Grandpa Garp rarely mentioned this man who hardly returned home. He only knew that the man was the leader of the Revolutionary Army and was defined by the world government as the most vicious criminal in the world. Thinking of this, Luffy turned his eyes and couldn't help looking at Garp. Seeming to understand Luffy's doubts, Garp nodded helplessly, but there was still some bitterness in his heart. Since Long founded the Revolutionary Army, the three of them, their grandfather, son and grandson, hardly ever had a reunion dinner, but they met together on the battlefield. Thinking about it, there is still some inexplicable sadness. But, thinking that Long can stand up for his grandson and his son at a critical moment. In addition to grief, Garp still has some gratification. He fought his own brothers and fought with his father and son. At the critical moment, he was still reliable. The Revolutionary Army and the world government will also start? Beside him, a ray of light flashed in Sengoku's eyes. He couldn't understand what the world government was thinking. In order to deal with the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, breaking his own limits in the Straw Hat Alliance, it is really worthwhile for the Revolutionary Army to join forces? This is a conspiracy, or passive compromise, or is it the order of Lord I Am? The real Armageddon is about to begin. It is also reasonable for the three super top forces to attack the ancestors of the sea together. Didn't we join forces with Marine to deal with the ancestors of the sea more than 40 years ago? The world government is now a wise choice to do so. This should be unexpected and reasonable. Rox, Roger, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki and others became relieved after the initial shock. In their opinion, the current scene is just a copy of more than 40 years. The ancestor of the sea. Luo Lei's behavior style of doing whatever he wants has made him passive and become the target of the sea. Only this time, I don't know who will lose and who will win, and who will have the last laugh. The world government and the Revolutionary Army also came to join in the fun. Wouldn't that kill 3 birds with 1 stone? This should be 3 happy arrivals. Ha ha ha. Lord Luo Lei will definitely have a wonderful series of 3. 9. Jin, Quinn, Jack, Parasparrow, Katakuri and the others who stood at the back didn't care so much. After looking at each other, they could see the excitement in their eyes. From their perspective, Lord Luo Lei is an invincible existence. The Straw Hat League is here, the world government is here, and the Revolutionary Army is here. All of them are here to deliver food, and that's it. Therefore, advertisement in such a situation, the battlefield fell into silence once again. Whether it is the pirates of the Straw Hat Major League, or Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Hancock, Jin, Shirahoshi, etc., as well as countless people watching the live broadcast, they began to wait silently. 1 second, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. As time passed, about 2.5 hours later, some people's observation Haki sensed Marine's top warship and a Revolutionary Army pirate ship. After about 10 minutes, swish, swish, one after another, the sound of breaking through the air resounded. Kizaru, one of Marine's 3 admirals, was the first to reach the center of the ring, followed by Marine's Marshal, Sakazuki, and Fujidora, Green Bull, Dark Horse, and 6 CPOs in chief. When these people stood blankly in the center of the ring, boom! The whole sea burst open in an instant. Countless people looked at the top Marine and the chief of the CPO on the live broadcast screen, all with dumbfounded expressions. If you don't get started, as soon as you make a move, world government is a king bomb, right? Sending both Marine's strongest combat power and CPO's strongest combat power, even if there were only 11 people standing there, a palpitating pressure burst out invisibly. However, this is just the beginning, crackling. Accompanied by a clear roar, a large number of dark clouds appeared on the arena without knowing it, mixed with strong winds and thunder and lightning, making the weather in this sea area gloomy. Immediately after, dark shadows came from afar. After approaching, the Revolutionary Army headed by Monkey D. Dragon is impressive. In the end, as if on purpose, Monkey D. Dragon led Sabo and others to stand beside Sakazuki and others. Humph! 35 Sakazuki glanced at the dragon with a gloomy expression, then glanced at the Straw Hat Luffy, clenched his fists, suppressed the impulse in his heart, snorted coldly, and said, "Dragon, you and your son will one day be caught by Marine. Live. Come on if you can." Monkey D. Dragon, who was wearing a dark green coat, shrugged disapprovingly, looked at Luffy who was standing in front of the Straw Hat Major League, opened his mouth, wanted to say something, but said nothing. He owes too much to his son. Whether it was because of guilt or what, Monkey D. Dragon turned his apologetic eyes to Garp again, but what greeted him was Garp's expressionless cheeks. Finally, Monkey D. Dragon was embarrassed, and then he put his serious eyes on Luo Lei. "Sabo, father." When he sensed the gazes of Monkey D. Dragon and Sabo and others, Luffy trembled in his heart, but he resisted the urge and dared not look directly at them, so he could only stare directly at the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei. Only by defeating the man in front of you can you reunite with your father, chat with your brother, and take risks with your partner. Of course, with the actions of Monkey D. Dragon and Straw Hat Luffy, the people present didn't say much nonsense. The strong enemy was in front. Even if there were a lot of grievances between each other, they had to endure it. Invisibly, the atmosphere at the scene became chilling. "Luo Lei, you are really arrogant." The next moment, Monkey D. Dragon took a deep breath and said solemnly, "The Revolutionary Army has no intention of being your enemy, but you are courting death yourself. Advertisement, go ahead and capture it." Sakazuki clenched his fist and said sternly, "Faced with so many high-end combat power, you are unable to fly today, 99. This time, we will turn on all the firepower." Straw Hat Luffy gritted his teeth and said unwillingly, "No matter how strong you are, we will kill you, so as not to let you endanger the entire sea, 55. With the opening of the dragon, Sakazuki, Luffy. There was almost no sign. The high-end combat power of the Straw Hat Alliance, Marine's 3 Admiral and Dark Horses, the 6 CPO chiefs, and some cadres of the Revolutionary Army all burst out with their own aura. And when these breaths erupted at the same time, some of the Conqueror's haki mixed in them actually showed faint signs of fusion. Boom! An earth-shattering voice sounded. Perhaps the breath energy was too powerful, causing the air to burst, and the countless dark clouds in the sky were directly washed away. After spreading out in all directions, this sea area was trembling slightly. 66. It's time for us to do it. Perceiving this horror to ultimate with a touch of Conqueror's haki. Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki and others all showed helpless expressions. In their opinion, Luo Lei should control them to burst out Conqueror's haki to counteract these auras. Pity, they were disappointed. In fact, Luo Lei never thought about letting these dead people take action. He Impure World Reincarnation resurrected Roger, Whitebeard and others, just to let them know what the real ancestors are and to witness the new history of the sea. You besieged me for more than 40 years, causing me to be attacked and lost. Now, he is impossible to lose. Swish. A cracking sound rang out. Luo Lei's body appeared in the air in a flash, showing a smile of, Azu. Okay. If you want to fight, I will fight. In the next instant, a domineering voice mingled with Conqueror's haki, resounding in midair like a thunderbolt from the blue sky, swept straight ahead, and collided with the explosive breath of Luffy, Dragon, Sakazuki and others. Clap. Clap. This was the sound of air bursting, and countless cobweb-like air spread across the sea in the blink of an eye, as if the space was about to shatter, causing New World to tremble violently. Immediately after holding on for less than 10 seconds, Luffy, Long, Sakazuki, etc. burst out of breath and was defeated by Luo Lei's Conqueror's haki. And some of the stronger ones are fine, but some of the weaker pirates from the Straw Hat League, Qian Li Jiao, didn't react, and they felt their minds roar, and they fainted. What a mighty Conqueror's haki! After the collective aura of the 3 major forces was defeated, the expressions of Luffy, Long, Sakazuki and others changed abruptly. Obviously, they did not expect that Luo Lei's Conqueror's haki would be so strong, giving people a feeling of superiority and incomparable. The Overlord killing is completely integrated into Conqueror's Haki, and with the addition of mental power, it creates such an incomprehensible Conqueror's Haki. Facing this scene, the red-haired Shanks showed a stunned expression. Because, Luo Lei's Conqueror's Haki seems to be several times stronger than when he fought against him, which is totally unreasonable. 5 elders, get out soon. 35 however. At this time, Luo Lei ignored everyone's astonishment, shouted loudly, and said, I have long sensed your breath, time and time again. Lao Su's patience is limited, since if you don't come out, don't blame me for being rude. 5. The voice did not fall. As soon as Luo Lei's mind moved, he stimulated the almost inexhaustible Chanla ore. That's right, since everyone is almost there, he has to break through to the 6 paths level in front of countless people and become a 6 paths ancestor who can do whatever he wants. Chapter 129 Breakthrough, 6 paths mode, 1 more kneeling for subscription. Now that a decision has been made, Luo Lei's eyes are sure, and there is no hesitation and waste of time. Since the last time Momoshiki was sanctioned, and the 2% peak Motherland template was once again unlocked. He is only 1 step away from breaking through to the 6 paths level. Now that most of the people are here, he can also explode completely and let the 6 paths ancestors rule the entire sea. Boom. The next moment, the almost endless chakra swept out, directly stirring up the heaven and the earth. The powerful chakra fluctuations affected the entire new world and began to tremble slightly. How is this possible? Perceiving this majestic chakra fluctuation, the Straw Hat Alliance, the top leaders of the Revolutionary Army, the top Marines, the chief of the CPO, and the resurrected Roger, Rox, Whitebeard, and others all showed extremely horrified expressions. Before, everyone knows Luo Lei is a powerful ninja. Also known as the God of Ninjas, it's good now, when the God of Ninjas burst into full force and broke out chakra, which is unique to ninjas. Only then did everyone realize that the clown was themselves, because in front of this chakra, which was like a vast galaxy, they were all as small as ants. The God of Ninjas? God of Chakra is almost there. So much so that Luffy, Sakazuki, Dragon, Roger and others all doubt whether the ancestors of the sea ate the unknown chakra fruit that only ninjas can eat. 857 As for the countless people watching the live broadcast on the sea, they were already stunned, and they didn't react at all. At that moment, Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, suddenly broke out. He used his Conqueror's Haki to crush the Straw Hat Alliance, the world government, and the powerful atmosphere of the collective outbreak of the Revolutionary Army. Immediately afterwards, the 5 elders were called to get out, and the majestic chakra that only belonged to ninjas broke out, which made the new world tremble. Horrible. It's really scary. Wait a minute, something is wrong. Luo Lei seems to tell the 5 elders to get out again. Doesn't that mean that world government not only sent the high-end combat power of Marine and CP0 this time, but even the top leader under IM? The 5 elders also participated in this operation, just hiding in the dark and wanting to waiting for the opportunity. At this time, advertisement on the deck of that Marine's top warship. The 5 elders restrained their breath and watched the live broadcast. Their cheeks were extremely blue. For so many years, no one dared to speak to them like this, and even told them to get out. This is completely disregarding them. Our aura was forcibly covered up by Lord Yimu. Luo Lei should be bombing us. Don't panic, don't worry. The next moment, the 5 elders with the highest status took a deep breath and said, I can't bear it, I need to bear it again. 55. That's right. After hearing this, the blonde 5 elders nodded with an ugly face, and said solemnly, I want to see what he wants to do when he bursts out with so many chakras. Do you say that there are really chakra fruits in the sea? 35. The bearded 5 elders seemed to have thought of something, and said incredulously, there seems to be no record of this fruit in the Devil Fruit illustrated book. But, without eating the chakra fruit, can you really have endless chakra just by practicing? Master Yimu's Devil Fruit is not recorded in the Devil Fruit Pokédex. The bald 5 elders said coldly. Now we can only take a step by step and see what Luo Lei wants to do. All right. The other 5 elders nodded and said nothing more. It doesn't matter whether the ancestors of the Great Ocean ate chakra fruit or not, or cultivated by themselves, as long as Luo Lei can be strangled, many of his secrets will be revealed. The other side, with so many chakras, it's no wonder they made such a huge wooden ring. Luo Lei, what nonsense are you talking about? To deal with you, our 3 major forces are enough, no need for the 5 elders. 5. You have a lot of chakra, and we are not weak when we join forces. 66. In the center of the arena, the Dark Horse, the 6 CPO chiefs, Lu Niu suppressed the horror in his heart after he reacted, pretended to be calm, and giggled coldly. They didn't believe that Luo Lei had sensed the breath of the 5 elders, and the only possibility was that he was frying Hu. A look of sudden realization flashed across the green cow's cheeks. He finally understood, BJDG, why the wood style of the ancestors of the sea is so strong. It turns out that there are too many chakras that belong to ninjas alone. Aren't you coming out yet? The corners of Luo Lei's mouth twitched slightly, his palms folded together, and he entered sage mode as soon as his mind moved. In an instant, without any sign, the countless natural energies in this sea area seemed to be summoned, and the swarms surged. Advertisement immediately after, under the eyes of countless people horrified by Ultimate. With Luo Lei as the center, the natural energy in a radius of thousands of kilometers gathered together, forming a giant natural energy tornado, which continuously poured into Luo Lei's body. What? Natural energies of various properties are coming. What does this great ancestor want to do? 39. Accompanied by exclamations, the first ones to react are Sakazuki, Kizaru, Kuzan, Green Bull, etc. Logia demon fruit power. Because, under their perception, all those invisible natural energies poured into Luo Lei's body like a tadpole looking for a mother, this is a little scary. Well known, the capacity of the human body is limited. As a result, Luo Lei's body is like a black hole, constantly absorbing natural energy. And about a few minutes later, immortal masks began to appear on Luo Lei's cheeks, and the golden immortality chandla burst out from the body, covering the body in an instant, forming immortal cloaks with various textures. Certainly, in Luo Lei's body, the almost endless immortal art Chatura and natural energy are constantly interweaving and merging. If someone has a see-through eye, they will find that the natural energy of various attributes and the immortal art Chatura are constantly being arranged and combined. After I don't know how many times I failed. In the end, perhaps the immortal technique Chadon pulled too much, causing the quantitative change to cause a qualitative change, and the wind, thunder, water, fire, earth, yin and yang merged a little in an instant. The last step was successful. Perceiving the changes in his body, a ray of light flashed across Luo Lei's eyes. Sure enough, when chakra is almost endless, with sage mode and natural energy, it can also integrate the power of yin and yang and the 5 elements. Next moment, under the watchful eyes of countless people, the golden chakra coat on Luo Lei began to disappear, turning into a royal robe with a tomo pattern on the back, and a black sphere appeared on the back, then a second, a third. At last, after forming 9 black spheres, Luo Lei held it with his right hand, and the black energy began to gather, turning into a scepter. Needless to say, we all know that it is the 6 paths mode. Chapter 130 Imam's Horror, the horror of the ancestors of the 6 paths, 2 more kneeling subscriptions. After a few seconds, with Luo Lei entering the 6 paths ancestors mode, the majestic celestial magic Chatura has disappeared, replaced by a seemingly unfathomable, but in fact, unremarkable state. But invisibly gave the Straw Hats the high-end combat power, Marines high-end combat power, the CPO's chief, the Revolutionary Army's high-end combat power, as well as Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Kaido of the Beasts, etc., as if surpassing the aura above all things. It seems that this is the real King's Landing on the sea. This seems to be a breakthrough. 35 I don't know how long it took. Buggy took the lead to regain his senses, and subconsciously made a terrified voice. After the breakthrough, the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, seems to have become stronger. Cried. Buggy really wanted to cry, since he was forced to become the false 4 emperors. He had been frightened all day long, and had trouble sleeping and eating. Now that he was well, facing a monster like Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, who was still getting stronger, his heart was already a little desperate. It's just getting stronger. Kuzan looked up at Luo Lei, who entered the 6 paths mode in midair, and said solemnly, after absorbing a lot of natural energy, it feels like an unknown transformation has taken place in both the body and soul. 99. What is the black sphere behind Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea? Crocodile dropped the cigar in his hand, swallowed, and stared at the 9 truth-seeking balls suspended behind Luo Lei in horror, only to feel his scalp tingle for a while. Because, under the perception of observation haki, that black sphere seems to have the power to destroy the world. At this time, not only Crocodile, but everyone with observation haki at the scene felt that the 9 black spheres were very abnormal, and the atmosphere of the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, also changed. That is at this time, only then did everyone understand why Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, let the world government and the Revolutionary Army join the battlefield. Why? Seeing this scene, Zoro, Sanji, Uda, Robin, Marco, Badgers, Shiryu and others were a little dazed, because, facing Luo Lei, who was like a god now, their souls were all invisible. Suppressed, has lost the courage to attack. What makes them even more powerless is that the ancestors of the sea were already very pervert, but now they have become stronger. How can they fight? I feel like I can't beat it, it's so scary. Kizaru rubbed his stiff cheeks, not knowing what to say. Fujitora sighed inwardly with his stick and knife. Although he couldn't see it, observation haki could clearly perceive that the strength of this great ocean ancestor had undergone another major transformation. Why did such a big monster appear in the sea? It's so frustrating. The green cow, the dark horse, and the 6 chiefs of CP0 also secretly showed extremely bitter expressions. This ancestor of the sea, since he was resurrected, likes to be unscrupulous, and what he does will scare people at any time, shocking the entire sea. Is it still possible? Sabo was already shocked and couldn't believe his own perception. He couldn't help rubbing his eyes, afraid that he was wrong. What's the matter? As soon as their Revolutionary Army came on stage, a Super King bombed. The cadres of the Revolutionary Army next to them looked the same, and they all entered a state of sluggishness. It turns out that we are the real clowns. Ha ha ha, we still underestimated the ancestors of the sea. Everyone thought that the ancestors of the sea were standing on the 3rd floor, but they were actually standing on the 5th floor. I can understand that the ancestors of the sea have planned from the beginning to the end to fight all by one person, and they have no intention of controlling our shots. We are still being affectionate in vain. At this time, the people who were hit the most were Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr, Garp, etc. They thought they had some value, but after Luo Lei broke through, they realized that there is what is the value of a hammer. From the beginning to the end, Luo Lei just wanted to take revenge on them. After the resurrection, they are only worthy of being a puppet to witness the history. This invisible contrast, Jean Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard and others were hit hard. On the other hand, the happiest ones are Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Blackbeard, Jin, Quinn, Hancock, Shirahoshi, Kazuki Hiyori, etc. The stronger Mr. Luo Lei is, the better it will be. Especially Shirahoshi, Hancock, Kazuki Hiyori, looking at Luo Lei in addition to admiration, is the worship from the soul. Advertisement is expected of the man they chose, it's bullshit. Their choice is not wrong. Among them, Kazuki Hiyori is already imagining the warm scene when Lord Luo Lei resurrected his mother Kazuki after winning the war. Again. Stronger again? 9 At this time, there are countless people watching the live broadcast on the sea. Looking at Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea wearing the 6 paths imperial robe, all fell into a state of incomparable horror. In addition to being shocked, he was trembling. Just kidding. The critical moment of the decisive battle has come. The ancestors of the Great Ocean, who were already strong, have transformed into ordinary people. This is completely without any chance of victory for the Straw Hat Alliance, the World Government, and the Revolutionary Army? Originally, after the World Government and the Revolutionary Army entered the war, the 3 major forces joined forces. Everyone thought the outcome was unpredictable. There will be an earth-shattering war to tell who wins and who loses. But he didn't expect that there would be a shocking reversal in the blink of an eye. The ancestors of the sea made a groundbreaking breakthrough in front of the entire sea. At the same time, Holy Land Mariejois, among the flowers in the deepest part of the ancient city of Pan. Boom. At the moment when the ancestors of the sea broke through to the 6 paths level, I.M., who was still watching the play in a leisurely manner, suddenly stood up from the void throne. A look of uncertainty flashed in his red eyes, and his calm heart shook violently. Maybe there is some gaffe. A breath of fury to ultimate swept out uncontrollably, covering the entire red line. Countless people in the world government, as well as the celestial dragons in the Holy Land, were frightened, and the people in the world government all knelt on the ground in shock, with strands of cold sweat on their foreheads. They are not fools and idiots. This terrifying breath to ultimate must have been erupted by Lord Yimu. As for the celestial dragons in the Holy Land, they are aloof and mighty, but they are not idiots, and even if they are very upset in their hearts, but because of the patron saint of the world government, I.M., they still chose to swallow it up. Why? What kind of realm is this? 35. What is the ancestor of the Great Sea, Luo Lei practicing? 35. How many strange abilities does he have? Accompanied by panicked voices. In addition to shock, Yimu's red eyes were horrified. The layman watched the excitement, and the expert watched the doorway. The moment Luo Lei broke through, she knew that something was wrong. Even through the live broadcast, this ancestor of the sea gave her a feeling of facing the devil fruit tree? How is this possible? The devil fruit tree has long since been destroyed, and turned into countless devil fruit scattered into the sea. But how could this Luo Lei give her this feeling? It's completely impossible. However, I am not knowing. Luo Lei entered the 6 paths level and took the same path as 10 Tails, relying on the endless chakra. If combined with the 6 paths wood style, he is really equivalent to the divine tree. As long as Luo Lei is willing, from now on, the world of pirates can also practice chakra on a large scale, and there will be a variety of blood-based boundaries, as well as the ninjutsu of the 8 gate of the 5 flowers, etc. No, I have to get everything from Luo Lei. This time, I'm going to use all my cards and explode completely. But, after being horrified, a streak of uncontrollable excitement appeared on Im's expressionless cheeks. Advertisement, asterisk asterisk. This Luo Lei must have a big secret. From the wood style at the beginning, to the resurrection of Luo Lei, his strength has skyrocketed, and he has also resurrected some dead people. Now he has entered a very strange place, realm. Almost everyone makes IM greedy. To put it bluntly, as long as she can get everything Luo Lei has, she will definitely reach the sky in one step. At the same time, is this the 6 paths level? It's a qualitative improvement. Ignoring the shock and awe of others, Luo Lei in midair held the 6 paths tin stick made of truth-seeking ball in his hand, showing a wisp of Azu's smile. His mind moved, and the 6 paths tin stick in his hand was like liquid, turned into a long sword, turned into a shield, and finally turned into a black sphere, floating in front of Luo Lei. Strong. Luo Lei couldn't help but sighed after sensing his physical state a little. If there is no prediction error, after entering the 6 paths mode, with the ability of the Motherland, he belongs to the super top level even in the 6 paths level. More importantly, unlike 6 paths Naruto, 6 paths Madara, etc. He relied on his endless chakra, and under the blessing of the peak Motherland template, he entered the 6 paths level, and the concept was different. Perhaps the only difference is that he does not have the eyes of the Otsutsuki clan, Sharingan, Tensigan, Rinnegan, and cannot use some powerful ninjutsu that can only be performed by Rinnegan. But it doesn't matter, the Six Paths ancestors seem to be pretty good too. Since the 5 elders haven't gotten out yet, let's use them to see how strong the Six Paths ancestors are. At the next moment, Luo Lei seemed to think of something, the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and his body rose a few hundred meters, indifferent eyes looked at the sea in the distance. This feeling, on that marine top warship. The five elders watched Luo Lei on the live broadcast and looked in the direction they were in. For some reason, their hearts tightened, and strands of cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Because, now the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei gave them the same feeling as Lord Yimu gave them. No, it was much more terrifying. Six Paths Universal Pull. A cold drink sounded. Even without Rinnegan, Luo Lei used his powerful mental power to simulate the pupil power and stretched out his right hand to face the direction of the 5 elders. Not good, quick. Let's get out, speed up. Through the live broadcast, seeing Luo Lei's action, for some reason, the five elders just felt terrified, and they all felt as if they were being stared at by some wild beast. Countless cells all over the body were constantly sending out crisis. Warning. Danger, extremely dangerous. It is imperative to leave this marine's top ship immediately. Swish. Swish. One after another, the sound of breaking through the air sounded, and without knowing the specific situation, the five elders flew away in different directions without any hesitation. However, it's too late, almost as soon as they were about to leave. A terrifying suction acted on the 5 of them from the air. Not good, not good, not good. 95-99-1. The five elders were shocked, and they wanted to use their means, but found that it was too late, so they could only watch their bodies fly backwards toward the center of the ring. Therefore, under the watchful eyes of countless people, a very terrifying scene appeared. I saw Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, just stretched out his right hand, and 5 old men in black combat uniforms flew upside down at a very fast speed from a distance. Bang! Bang! Several crisp collisions sounded. The five elders slammed into an open space in the center of the ring. Chapter 131 Public Execution. 5 elders from the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei hands on. Then five elders were attracted by the majestic gravity and smashed on the ring. In less than a minute, many people have not yet reacted, and the 5 elders appeared on the battlefield in a very disgraceful way. Quiet. Silence all over the place. Faced with this scene, everyone who knew and didn't know 5 elders fell silent. Just kidding, attracting 5 people from an unknown distance from the sky, Luo Lei's strength is too terrifying, especially these 5 people are the top leaders of the world government except Yimu. Especially Marine Sakazuki, Kizaru, Fujitora, Green Bull, Dark Horse and the 6 CPO chiefs. Their faces suddenly became extremely blue. This great ancestor of the sea, are you trying to embarrass the world government and slap them in the face? There is also the 5 elders, who are too unsatisfactory, 857, and the mantis catching the cicada and the oriole behind. I am afraid that you are not specially here to let Luo Lei stand out. People who know the 5 elders such as Long, Mahawk, Kuzan, Beckman, Shiryu, etc., because they are temporarily allies with the world government, can only show the expression of wanting to laugh and hold back. It turns out that the high 5 elders also have today? Ha ha ha. Roger, Rox, Golden Lion Shiki, Blackbeard and others couldn't help laughing out loud. The 5 elders of the Dog Day, when they were so embarrassed, really learned a lot. Sudden, just at this time, seeing that many people don't seem to know 5 elders. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Kaido of the Beasts showed a very incredible expression, and after a bit of contemplation, he said loudly, 5 elders, you 5 old people, do you still have today? What? After hearing this, Charlotte Linlin deliberately showed a surprised expression and said, this is the 5 elders, the pillars of the world government. Why did they fall to the ground, and the top of Marine and CPO didn't help your master up? Boom. With Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin singing double there. Originally, some people who didn't know the 5 elders showed incredible expressions, and some even covered their mouths, feeling that they couldn't react. What's going on? World government's 5 elders are so vulnerable, is there a mistake? 5 elders. Are they the 5 elders? Advertisement? The 5 elders of the world government were sucked into the battlefield without any resistance? Isn't it? That's all 5 elders? I feel like I can be 5 elders too. The countless people watching the live broadcast were stunned for a moment, and then they couldn't help but let out a series of uproars. They only felt that the image of the 5 elders in their minds had collapsed, and some even showed that they couldn't believe it. Expression. Is this the 5 elders? At this time, on the ring, many people from the Straw Hat Alliance and the Revolutionary Army also showed extremely stiff expressions. They thought of many possibilities, just didn't expect the 5 elders to play this way. Even Zoro, Sanji, Robin, Luffy and others all showed expressions of incomparable astonishment. Obviously they did not expect that the 5 elders were actually sucked over by the ancestors of the sea. Enough. Shut up for me. How can the 5 of us talk to you? Seeing that the scene was a little out of control, the 5 elders who smashed into the ring even had the heart to die. How many years, they have never been so insulted. This ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is really deceiving people too much. What makes them speechless is that it is not that they are too weak, but that the ancestors of the sea are too strong. That terrifying suction was mixed with wisps of black energy. After acting on their bodies, the power of armament haki and devil fruit seemed to have failed, causing them to be smashed to the ground, and they have not returned until now. God comes. Now, out of helplessness, I can only endure the pain in my body and want to stand up from the ground. Swish. Swish. Pity, just as the five elders wanted to stand up. 25 black sticks fell from the sky, and they were inserted into the five elders at a lightning speed. Ah, 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 66. 99 screams sounded. The five elders sensed the black stick on their bodies and wanted to activate their armament haki and devil fruit powers. However, he found that the major acupoints in his body, the power of armament haki, the power of devil fruit, and the power bestowed by Lord I Am were all blocked. Lord Five Elders. Seeing this scene, Sakazuki, Kizaru, Green Bull and the 6 CPO chiefs were startled and wanted to help the 5 elders pull out the black stick. But found, advertisement I don't know when, 3 black balls have been blocked in front of them. This, facing the black ball that seemed to contain the power of destroying the world, Sakazuki and the others froze in place. Certainly, on the contrary, 3 black balls appeared in front of the Straw Hat Alliance and in front of the Revolutionary Army, forcing Luffy and Dragon, who had wanted to make a move, to stop in place for the time being. Swish. A space fluctuation came out. Luo Lei, who was wearing the 6 paths imperial robe, appeared in front of the 5 elders as if teleporting. With a hold of his right hand, the black truth-seeking ball turned into a black stick. Luo Lei, what exactly are you trying to do? If you have the ability, let us go and use this black stick to seal us. What is it? Damn, as long as we get out, we will kill you. Lord Yim won't let you go. Take this damn black stick away from us. Seeing Luo Lei appearing, the 5 elders were frightened and terrified, and they screamed and screamed loudly. How could they still look like the pillars of the world government? Suffocated, it's really frustrating. The 5 elders consider themselves not weak. Whether it is armament haki or the power of devil fruit, they have all been cultivated to an ultimate, especially when the 5 of them join forces. They can definitely explode the power of destroying the sky and destroying the earth. Alright now, he died before he got out of the apprenticeship, and he was sealed by this black stick before he showed his strength. No matter how they motivated devil fruit and armament haki in their bodies, they were useless, which made the 5 elders panic. Ha ha, after hearing this, Luo Lei showed a disdainful smile and said slowly, now I will publicly execute the 5 elders. Laugh. The voice did not fall. A ray of violence flashed across Luo Lei's eyes. Just like playing golf, the black stick in his hand slammed into the bald-headed 5 elders. Puff. A crackling sound rang out. The bald 5 elders who stood at the pinnacle of world power were killed by headshots alive. Chapter 132. Do you also want to dance? Desperate 5 elders, murderous ancestors. Puff. A crackling sound rang out. The bald 5 elders who stood at the pinnacle of world power were killed by a living headshot. How is this possible? And at the moment of death? The bald-headed 5 elders are undoubtedly extremely unbelievable. He never thought that he had just been sucked into the battlefield, and before he showed his tyrannical strength, he was mercilessly headshot by the ancestors of the sea, and died extremely aggrieved, without any dignity and face at all. And when wisps of red and white splashed on the cheeks of the other 4-5 elders. The other 4-5 elders stopped struggling all of a sudden, their eyes filled with extreme panic and disbelief. Died, they killed one of the 5 elders in the blink of an eye? This F*K is a bit funny and embarrassing. As the top level of the world government after Lord Yimu, the 5 of them haven't touched it for almost 100 years. You don't need to think about it, not only the 5 elders, but also all the face and dignity of the world government have lost all their dignity. At the same time, seeing the bald 5 elders get a neat headshot. For a time, the whole world fell into a dead silence, and time and space seemed to freeze at this moment. Because no one dared to believe what they saw, the 5 elders who were high above died just like that. Facing the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, there was no power left to fight back. The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is really too violent and do whatever he wants. Therefore, in this situation, on the 19th stage, the pirates of the Straw Hat League were stunned, and the cadres of the Revolutionary Army were also dumbfounded. Even the resurrected Roger, Rox, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki, Garp, etc. After a while of shock, I only felt that the buzzing in my mind kept ringing. Especially Marine Sakazuki, Kizaru, Green Bull, Dark Horse and others, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It was the shock of the scene in front of them that they still haven't recovered. They know that the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, has become more powerful after transformation. But did not expect that the 5 elders, who had just appeared on the battlefield, were headshot by a blow without any resistance, and the dead couldn't die any longer? Is this Lord 5 elders? So dead? It was hard for them to believe what was happening in front of them, but the facts were in front of them again, and they had to believe it or not. Okay, kill one. Who will I kill next? At this time, Luo Lei's mouth was slightly raised, and he said with a smile, I will blow the heads of the 5 of you one by one. After saying this, Luo Lei took the black stick and walked slowly towards the mustache 5 elders. Luo Lei, what do you want to do? Let us go if you can, it will definitely make you look good. Even if you kill us, it will have no effect, Lord Yimu will burn you to ashes and absorb everything from you. Hearing this sentence, the 5 elders, who were still in a state of terrified loss, were like frightened rabbits, and they came back to their senses one after another. Especially the 5 elders with a mustache, couldn't help struggling frantically again, trying to break free from the shackles of the black stick on their bodies. Pity, no matter how hard he struggles, the black stick stuck in his body was immobile, suppressing him to the death, not to mention the power of Devil Fruit who had cultivated to ultimate armament hockey and developed to an awakened state, he didn't even have the strength to resist. This. What the hell is this? Desperate advertisement. The mustache 5 elders looked at Luo Lei who had walked in front of him, with a heart-like expression on his cheeks. Facing this man who perverted to ultimate, he really felt a little desperate. Completely out of line, that black rod, which I don't know what kind of power is condensed, can actually suppress people who are stronger than them. You don't deserve to know what kind of power this is. Luo Lei's eyes flashed violently, grinned, and said coldly, 5 elders, let me die. But, just when Luo Lei wanted to swing the black stick in his hand and wanted to play golf again, Sakazuki gestured slightly to Kizaru, who got the hint, gritted his teeth and could only bite the bullet and turned into a golden light. As Marine, they couldn't tolerate Luo Lei killing the remaining 4-5 elders after killing one, otherwise, he would be thrown into the ocean, even though he has lost face many times now. So, at such a moment after eating Logia's sparkling fruit, the fastest Kizaru is the best shot. As long as he can use his speed to interfere with Luo Lei, Sakazuki and the others will temporarily ignore the threat of the black ball in front of them and shoot together to see if they can take off the black sticks from the remaining 4-5 elders. Laugh. A golden light flashed away, Kizaru's body appeared behind Luo Lei, he raised his long legs directly, his feet shone with bright golden light, and kicked towards Luo Lei's vest at a lightning-fast speed. In his opinion, now Luo Lei doesn't have the black ball floating behind him. As long as he can hit him with one hit, Luo Lei will be smashed into the wooden ring even if he is not injured. Is there an opportunity? Seeing such a scene, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, the leader of the Dragon and Straw Hat Alliance, Luffy's eyes lit up slightly, and he was ready to strike together. They are very clear, as long as Kizaru's attack has a little effect, it is the best time for everyone to shoot. Have you been kicked by the light? Seeing that Luo Lei didn't react, his attack was about to kick Luo Lei's vest, and I wondered if he was used to it, Kizaru couldn't help but said a mantra. Boom. The next moment, without the deafening roar of imagination, Kizaru's light speed kick was like a squib, froze at Luo Lei's vest. Because, at the critical moment, Luo Lei's vest condensed a black ball, and Kizaru just kicked on the black ball. I am most afraid of the sudden quietness of the air. Kizaru kicked the black ball and a wisp of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Observation Hockey felt that the black ball was pervert, but, when he actually kicked it with his feet, he realized that everyone underestimated the black ball. This is more than a pervert, it's like a terrifying bomb. I haven't been kicked by the light. Luo Lei turned his head and said expressionlessly, do you also think of dancing? Kizaru froze for a moment, I don't seem to understand why Luo Lei would say such a sentence. In the next instant, he seemed to sense a sense of crisis from the depths of his soul. Before he could think about it, Kizaru wanted to turn into a flash and temporarily stay away from Luo Lei. However, it's been a little late, the truth-seeking ball he kicked turned into a pool of liquid, and wrapped around his right leg in a silky smoothness, making his already elemental body restore its original body at once. What? A scream rang out. Advertisement Kizaru's right leg was crushed alive by the truth-seeking ball, revealing a bare bone leg. Immediately after, Luo Lei pinched Kizaru's neck and threw it out. Boom. A deafening roar resounded. Perhaps the quality of the wooden arena was so good that there were no potholes, but a majestic energy shockwave erupted. Puff. Kizaru, who was smashed on the wooden ring, looked at his completely abolished right leg. A look of incomparable pain appeared on his wretched cheeks, and he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, but he could no longer get up. In short, just a face-to-face, Kizaru, one of Marine's 3 admirals, has already lost his combat effectiveness. Looking at this scene, Luffy, Long, and Sakazuki, who had already planned to do it, all froze in place, and the cold sweat on their foreheads overflowed again. They didn't seem to think that Luo Lei would be able to crush the fastest Kizaru effortlessly. This. How strong is it? Impossible. The 865 elders with a mustache widened their eyes, only to feel that a ray of hope that had just appeared in their hearts was strangled in the cradle again. It's your turn. Luo Lei shook his head and said something in a low voice. Sir, I am. Save me. The bearded 5 elders cried out in horror. However, he was greeted by a black rod. Boom. As if the watermelon had been blown up, the 5 elders' heads had been blown up alive again. And this is just the beginning. Luo Lei turned his gaze to the blonde-haired 5 elders again, without hesitation. He was playing golf with his backhand again. The blonde-haired 5 elders' pupils shrank sharply, and before he could speak, his head froze. Beaten by a black stick. Luo Lei, Lord Yimu will not let you go. Ha ha ha, the background of the world government is not what you can imagine, and the power of Lord Yimu is not something you can resist. Kill it. If you kill us, it will only make Lord Yimu stronger and more pervert. 5 elders died in a row, and the remaining 5 elders with the highest status and the 5 elders with a scar on their left cheeks gave up their resistance in despair and gave up incomparably crazy laughter. This great ancestor of the sea, he will definitely pay the price in blood for his stupid behavior. Their death, it will only make Lord I Am stronger and stronger. Yes. Luo Lei's eyes flashed a ray of crimson, and said disdainfully. I am, what is it? Laozi will crescent moon pierce her into the sky. The voice did not fall. Scoff, scoff. 2 hot sights flashed away. The heads of the 5 elders with the highest status and the 5 elders with a scar on the left side of their cheeks were bombed. So far, all 5 elders were tortured to death. Chapter 133 Make Wan Luffy feel pain. So far, all 5 elders were tortured to death. The smell of blood was mixed with the sound of Kizaru's continuous vomiting of blood. Let the whole scene, no, the countless people in the whole sea who were watching the live broadcast, all showed extremely astonished expressions, staring at the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, in disbelief. Pervert, too reckless, how can the sea have such a supermonster who can do whatever he wants? Even the 5 elders moved out of world government's final boss I Am, and they were useless. They were killed by Luo Lei's merciless headshots. The only difference is that the first 3 were killed by Luo Lei. The Black Rod was headshot, and the last 2 were headshot by heat sight. This great ancestor didn't take anyone, including I Am, in his eyes at all? For a time, the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei's peerless fierceness is to deter the entire sea. Whether it is the pirates of the Straw Hat League, the cadres of the Revolutionary Army, or the resurrected Roger, Rocks, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki, Garp, Sengoku, etc., even the countless people watching the live broadcast on the sea, all of them are full of heart and mind. Shaking, scalp tingling. What, are the 5 elders dead? Is it really necessary to fight? In this situation, some pirates of the Straw Hat League finally collapsed completely in their hearts. After panicking, they all slumped on the ground trembling, a burst of despair. I don't want to fight anymore. They really don't want to face the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei. Originally, after the Revolutionary Army and the world government joined the battlefield, their self-confidence surged again. But the sudden death of the 5 elders made all the self-confidence that had just emerged disappeared, and was replaced by a dead heart of despair. The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is an invincible and terrible existence. Certainly, not only these pirates with slightly inferior strength. Even some of the high-end combat powers of the Straw Hat Major League felt timid in their hearts and wanted to leave. Even the famous 5 elders have died. Didn't these people go up to deliver the food properly? It was only at this time that they realized that Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, was not afraid of gang fights from beginning to end. He is afraid that he can't really beat them all alone. Advertisement, this. Hearing these words, the expressions of Mihawk, Crocodile, Marco, Kuzan, Zoro, Uda, Beckman and others changed and they wanted to scold. But, in the face of the cruel reality of the 5 elders being tortured and murdered, he still couldn't open his mouth. Because, they also understand from the beginning to the end, the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei did not seem to take their coalition forces in their eyes. The unity they're proud of his strength, perhaps in the eyes of the ancestors of the sea, it is a big joke. Therefore, even if Luffy broke out madly, he might drink hatred at the hands of the god-like ancestors of the sea. Why? A dazed look appeared in Luffy's eyes. He has always been very confident, but he is also a little unconfident due to the power of the ancestors of the sea. There is only one thought in his mind, and that is how can such a pervert exist in the world? H7. A cold sweat appeared on Monkey D. Dragon's forehead, trembling frantically in his heart. Plan failed. All were led astray. The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei's power has reached an unknown realm. No matter how many people there are, it may be useless in the face of absolute power. Perhaps the ancestors of the sea wished that all the unconvinced forces would gather together to find trouble for him, so that they would be able to catch them all in one go, and then have a live broadcast facing the whole sea, shocking the whole sea. After this battle, Luo Lei will become the undisputed ancestor of the sea. After thinking about it, Monkey D. Dragon didn't dare to think about it anymore. If everything was in Luo Lei's plan, then all this might be a conspiracy. It's really too scary and creepy. It's a pity. What Monkey D. Dragon doesn't know is that all this is his brain supplement. Because Luo Lei never took them to heart. We really lost, completely. It turns out that the gap between us and the ancestors of the sea is like the gap between heaven and earth. Advertisement Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr, Garp and others looked at each other, and they could see the bitter look in their eyes. They were able to compete with Luo Lei more than 40 years ago. 40 years later, Luo Lei has grown to the point where even the 5 elders of the world government have been tortured to death. Even at their peak, they no longer have any qualifications to fight against Luo Lei. In other words, they are not worthy. F*K. The 5 elders were tortured to death. Lord Luo Lei is awesome. It's too powerful. Lord Luo Lei is really too violent and violent. 35. Correspondingly, Kaido of the Beasts, Blackbeard, Charlotte Linlin, Jin, Quinn, etc. exclaimed one after another. In addition to being happy, it was a burst of excitement. Too strong. Lord Luo Lei is really too powerful. Even the 5 elders of the world government were tortured to death, and who else can stop Luo Lei from being single? I'm afraid that I am not going to be slapped by Lord Luo Lei a few times when he shows up. As for Luffy, the Straw Hat, I'm afraid that he will not be the opponent of Lord Luo Lei. 5th gear. Human fruit, you demons, Nika form? Go to hell. As long as you dare to break out, you will definitely be crushed by Lord Luo Lei at one time. But, just when everyone was shocked, somehow, the corpses of the 5 elders seemed to have lost their moisture and energy, and all turned into mummified corpses. The energy disappeared. No. It seems to be absorbed by someone in the air. Luo Lei's eyes moved and looked in the direction of Mariejois. If he didn't perceive wrong, the devil fruit energy on 5 elders seemed to be used by Yimu, absorbed by special means. Do not, more specifically, it seems that Yim has the ability to absorb the power of the 5 elders, or the ability of the 5 elders is bestowed by Yim. Interesting. Really interesting. The next moment, Luo Lei had some conjectures in his heart, and turned his eyes to the Straw Hat Luffy matter. I am will definitely appear, then any secrets on her will not be hidden, so let Wan Luffy feel the pain now. Chapter 134 Murder and Punish Your Heart. That's right. Just let Wan Luffy feel the pain first, this. Luffy, who was still in a daze, looked at Luo Lei subconsciously, only to feel that the hairs on his body suddenly rose, and a wisp of cold sweat appeared on his forehead, and he couldn't help but panic. Horrible. Terrible. Facing Luo Lei's indifferent eyes. At this moment, Luffy seemed to feel that all the cells in his body were sending dangerous signals to him frantically, especially the energy in the form of Ren fruit, Eudemons, and Nika began to surge uncontrollably. Calm down. I must calm down. Luffy's pupils shrank violently a few times, took a deep breath, barely suppressed the tremors in his heart, and turned his eyes to his grandfather, Garp. However, disappointed Luffy, Garp still seemed to be in a state of horror, his eyes glazed, unable to give him the encouragement of love. Very unwilling, Luffy turned his eyes to his father, Monkey D. Dragon. Similar to Garp, the dragon's expression was also in a stiff state, as if he had not recovered from the scene of the 5 elders being killed. So, facing Luffy's gaze, Monkey D. Dragon did not respond. Luffy 860, who was not encouraged, showed a lost expression, and turned his head to look at Zoro, Sanji, Nami, Robin, Usopp, etc., only to find that his partners were all dumbfounded and still in horror, in the state. Immediately after, Luffy looked at Beckman, Hawkeye Mihawk, Crocodile, Buggy and others, and found that these people also ignored his eyes. Why, therefore, in this situation, for the first time ever, Luffy felt a sudden sense of despair. Advertisement: this ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, has not really made a move against the Straw Hat Major League, which has already made everyone lose their confidence to continue fighting. Is it really necessary to fight? Certainly, not just the Straw Hat Major League, even Marine's Dark Horse, Green Bull, the 6 CPO chiefs, and the cadres of the Revolutionary Army were all in a state of horror. Seeing this scene, Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Jin, Quinn, Hancock and others were all stunned. What was the situation? What happened to the Straw Hat League, BJDG, Marine's top management, CPO chief, Revolutionary Army cadres? There's something wrong with the emotions. Even the countless people watching the live broadcast on the sea have some doubts? What happened? Even if the 5 elders were crushed to death, it would be impossible for the Straw Hat Alliance, the top management of Marine, the chief of the CPO, and the cadres of the Revolutionary Army to be shocked and still haven't recovered? What's wrong with the situation? Maybe the eyes can't see. Fujitora, one of Marine's 3 admirals, did not frown, and suddenly had an ominous feeling in his heart. Because, the atmosphere of the battlefield has become a little abnormal now, everyone seems to be in a very strange state, and the 5 senses have problems. Don't worry, the energy in the 5 elders has disappeared, it should be Lord Yimu who did it. Suddenly, Fujitora, who noticed something was wrong, clenched the staff and knife in his hand, and said with a serious look, "Don't be shocked, everyone, cheer up, as long as we unite and cooperate, we will definitely win the final victory. After all, we world the government's final boss, hasn't shot yet." After saying this, a sharp-edged sword intent erupted from Fujitora's body, swept out in all directions. Damn, what happened just now? Why'd I feel like I'm in a state of being in a state of slumber? In the next instant, the people affected by this sword intent all showed blank expressions, and immediately looked at each other, their scalps tingling for a while. Because, just after the 5 elders were killed, advertisement in a state of horror, they actually fell into a very strange state. There was nothing else in their minds except shock, fear, and shock. It seemed that their bodies were not under their control. Luo Lei, you must be the one who did it. Marine's Marshal, Sakazuki, gritted his teeth, clenched his fists that had turned into magma, and roared coldly. What did you do to us just now? Anger. Sakazuki is extremely angry. Just now, he actually fell into a state of insanity. If Fujitora hadn't woken everyone up, I'm afraid everything would have ended. If so, Sakazuki was also afraid for a while. Swish. Swish. The voice did not fall. All eyes looked at the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, and, in addition to the horror, there was a burst of fear and shock in these eyes, which affected so many people unknowingly. This ancestor of the sea is really too much terrible. I just felt bored and performed an illusion. 35 Facing so many gazes, Luo Lei smiled and said regretfully, I didn't expect that except for a blind man, all of you would be affected. All right. Taking advantage of killing the 5 elders to shock everyone. Luo Lei secretly cast an illusion, even if there is no chakra in these people, but, after affecting the 5 senses, the effect is still very good, but I didn't expect that Fujitora was an outlier. So you used an illusion? Luffy widened his eyes and said angrily, You smack me? When I think about myself, I almost lost my self-confidence. Beginning to doubt his grandfather, father, and friends, Luffy's heart was frightened for a while, and strands of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. I see, everything was done by Luo Lei. The next moment, Luffy looked at Garp, Long, Zoro, Sanji, Robin and others, but saw encouragement and guilt in everyone's eyes. Obviously, they all knew what just happened. The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, wanted to use illusion to kill Luffy's heart and break Luffy's spiritual will. Fortunately, everyone woke up at the last minute. Chapter 135 Stand in line, my rules are the rules, kill Sabo. Fortunately, everyone woke up at the last moment. This did not let the ancestors of the sea succeed. It's really too despicable and shameless, there is no limit. Thinking of this, Garp, Long, Zoro, Sanji, Robin, and others became more and more afraid of Luo Lei, but because of Luo Lei's strength, they could only stand there in anger and dare not speak. Especially Garp, whose body is not under his control. Watching this scene, his heart is helpless except for being uncomfortable. Really, if you have the strength, you can do whatever you want. From the beginning to the end, Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, completely ignored everyone. It's amazing. How can an illusion affect so many high-end combat power? It turns out that, no wonder their state was not right just now. Ha ha ha, Lord Luo Lei is really too strong. First he killed five elders, and then he played with the Straw Hat Alliance, Marine, and the Revolutionary Army. And hearing that Lord Luo Lei just used an illusion, it almost made the Straw Hats League, Marine executives, CPO chief, Revolutionary Army lose their resistance. Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Jin, Quinn, Hancock, Shirahoshi, the others all involuntarily showed expressions of sudden realization. As expected of Mr. Luo Lei, every moment can give the opponent an unexpected big surprise. So it's an illusion? Countless people watching the live broadcast on the sea also reacted after realizing it, and their hearts were already shocked and a little numb. This ancestor of the sea is really too strong and too pervert, and he played a bit of Straw Hat Luffy, the leader of the Straw Hat Major League, which made Luffy almost collapse. If it goes on like this, the Straw Hat League, the top Marines, the CPO chief, and the Revolutionary Army may be defeated by Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea. At the same time, Holy Land Mariejois, among the flowers in the deepest part of the ancient city of Pan. After using his special ability to absorb the energy of the five elders and the devil fruit power. Imam's body surged with a breath that was so majestic to ultimate, which once again enveloped the entire red line at a lightning-fast speed. And sensing this aura, the officials of the world government were fine, kneeling on the ground respectfully, but those celestial dragons who had always been aloof, felt like they were going crazy. This Lord I Am, as soon as they disagreed, they burst out with their own powerful imposing pressure, which made the celestial dragons, who are the nobles of the world, very uncomfortable. In normal times, who dares to explode in front of them? It's all right now. Lord Yimu is constantly bursting with violent breaths. They can only hold back when they feel unhappy in their hearts. It's too uncomfortable. Tips for carving insects. Perceiving his own state, Yimu glanced at the live broadcast, and a look of disdain appeared in his red eyes. 5 elders are waste, the pirates of the Straw Hat League, the top executives of Marine, the 6 CPO chiefs, and the Revolutionary Army are also a bunch of trash. Now anyone with a discerning eye can see that the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei, is playing with them. I just don't know how many people will stand behind the Straw Hat Luffy wholeheartedly. As for why he can absorb the power of the devil fruit of the 5 elders and the energy of his body. Of course, because everything the 5 elders have is given by him, and now that the 5 elders are dead, he can also take back everything he has given to the 5 elders. Joey boy, I look forward to your presence. The next moment, a cold look flashed across Ain's cheeks, and he muttered to himself. This time, I will watch your performance well. I hope you don't disappoint me. 5. Advertisement at the same time, after waking up from the illusion, whether it is the pirates of the Straw Hat League, the senior officers of Marine, the 6 CPO chiefs, and the cadres of the Revolutionary Army, Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, became more and more cautious in their hearts. Luffy, come on. 35 Feeling that there is something wrong with the atmosphere, Sabo has a confident smile on his face, and said firmly, no matter how strong the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei is, I believe in you and will always stand behind you to support you. Luffy, Grandpa, I believe in you too. Hearing this sentence, Garp did not hesitate, took a deep breath, and said, as long as you stick to what you want to do, you will definitely succeed. Luffy, I'm proud of you. Monkey D. Dragon's eyes were sure, and he said solemnly, no matter what the result is, what you do will always be worthy of Dad's pride and pride. Come on, Luffy, we trust you. You're the best, Luffy. No matter what, we will always stand behind you. 35. With the beginning of Sabo and others, Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Chopper, Robin, Nami, Uda, Beckman and others all suppressed their inner tremors and made a sound of cheering up Luffy. Have nothing to say, things have developed to the present, and the Straw Hat League has nowhere to go. Even if Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, is very strong and pervert, he can only bite the bullet and fight to the end. After hearing these words, Luffy, who had endured for a long time, finally couldn't hold back any longer, and a wisp of tears appeared in Chunon's eyes, and his whole body was suddenly full of energy and inexhaustible courage. Even if everyone is not optimistic about him, even if he is slapped in the face by crazy ridicule, even if the ancestors of the sea are powerful and invincible. But, as long as Zoro, Sanji, Uta and other friends stand behind him, he will not let them down. Seeing this scene, Green Niu smiled bitterly and said, "It's really indomitable. Straw Hat Luffy has regained his strength again, at least his energy has improved several times compared to just now." Yes. Fujitora sighed and stopped talking. When he was in Dressrosa, he had seen the amazing appeal of the Straw Hat Luffy. No matter what, Luffy might really be able to create a great miracle. Humph. Sakazuki snorted coldly, his cold eyes flickering uncertainly. Whether it is the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, or the Straw Hat Luffy, they should all be damned. Now he only expects Lord Yimu to show up as soon as possible to completely eliminate all evil and maintain absolute justice. As for the chief of the 6 CPOs wearing masks, on the surface they are very calm, but in fact they have long been fearful in their hearts. Ha ha ha. It's really interesting. Looking at the Straw Hat Luffy full of blood, Luo Lei couldn't help laughing, his eyes suddenly became cold, and he glanced at the pirates of the Straw Hat League, the top of Marine, the 6 chiefs, and the Revolutionary Army said coldly, "Now I will give you one last chance to stand in line. If you don't want to die, you should know how to choose. After 10 seconds, I will start killing, ask for flowers. Of course, if you choose to stand with me, then I will ensure your safety." When it comes to this, Luo Lei also showed a play-watching expression. What? Before he finished speaking, the Straw Hat Alliance, the top of Marine, the 6 CPO chiefs, and the Revolutionary Army all showed surprised expressions. The last chance to stand in line, will you be killing again soon? Advertisement Luo Lei didn't care so much, and counted out a number slowly. Equals. The second number just fell, Captain Blackbeard, I've always been on your side, 55. Swish. A cracking sound rang out, Vanoka of the Blackbeard pirates flew towards Luo Lei without hesitation. He is not a fool and an idiot. The great ocean ancestor obviously wants to hit the Straw Hat Luffy. If so, he must seize this golden opportunity to avoid being killed. It is not worth it. Me too, sorry Luffy, I don't want to die yet. 0, Luffy, we just want to live, and you're too weak to blame. Following Vanoka's actions, some pirates in the Straw Hat League who had been frightened for a long time, without any hesitation, flew towards an open space behind Luo Lei, many of whom were still in Straw Hats. Big fleet. Obviously, at the critical moment of life and death, they still chose to live. Therefore, in this situation, the Straw Hat League had less than 30 pirates left in less than 3 seconds. Lord Dragon, I'm sorry. Seeing this scene, a cadre of the Revolutionary Army gritted his teeth, left a sentence, and left at a very fast speed. You dare? Sabo's expression turned cold, and he said mercilessly, since you have joined the Revolutionary Army, you should know the rules of the Revolutionary Army. Those who escape from battle will be killed without mercy. Fire Fist. 35 saying that, Sabo stimulated the energy of Logia Mera Mera fruit, and he wanted the traitors to rectify the law on the spot as an example. Lao Tzu's rules are the rules. Who do you think you are? Seeing that Sabo ignored his own words, Luo Lei got angry all of a sudden. F*K. You don't want to be ashamed? Do you try to provoke him in front of him? Or don't take him seriously? T7. Long and Luffy's faces changed suddenly, and they were about to start, but found that it was too late. Because, at the moment when Sabo starts, a black ball passed through Sabo's fire fist at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Immediately afterwards, Sabo's fist, along with the flame on his fist, disappeared out of thin air, not even a drop of blood, as if it was wiped out by a black ball. How is this possible? Sabo watched his elemental fist disappear, stunned for a moment, as if he did not expect to face that black ball, he would be so vulnerable. And this is just the beginning. Laugh, a crimson light flashed away. In an instant, before Sabo could react, he was bombarded alive by the scorching hot gaze and turned into a pool of coke. Chapter 136 Crazy Standing in Line, Laughing Ancestors, one more kneeling and begging for subscription. How is that possible? Am I going to die? Why is this so? What kind of energy is that black ball condensed, which can actually make Logia elementalization fail and disintegrate my armament hockey? Luffy, I'm sorry, I can't see you have the last laugh. Ace, I'm here for you, before turning into coke. Sabo's whole person is in a state of stupidity, his heart is full of bitterness and despair, and countless thoughts flashed through his mind. He just wanted to clean up the portal. This sea ancestor was good, he would start without a word, he didn't give him any chance to speak, and directly killed him in seconds. And with the famous second in command of the Revolutionary Army, Sabo, being killed in seconds, the atmosphere of the scene fell silent slightly. Sabo. After a few seconds, Luffy was the first to react, widening his eyes and letting out a scream of pain to ultimate. Dead, his good brother died again, as if it were a cycle of fate. Luffy experienced the pain that touched the soul after Ace was killed by 140. What makes Luffy even more powerless is that Ace died in front of him, and now Sabo is also dead in front of him. After all, he is too weak, you can only watch it all happen. Phew. And the cadre of the Revolutionary Army, after breathing a sigh of relief, wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, and then signaled to some other cadres of the Revolutionary Army, expressing the simple meaning that there is Lord Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, and there is no need to worry about the retaliation of the Revolutionary Army. Swish. Swish. Sure enough, with Sabo's experience. Seeing the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei does not come to nothing, does not drag mud and water, and says to do it. Many cadres of the Revolutionary Army, who were still a little worried in their hearts, were immediately relieved, and without hesitation, they flew out, and good birds chose trees to live in. The purpose of the Revolutionary Army is to overthrow the unequal rule of the celestial dragons, who dominate the world government. Now they are loyal to the old wood to fulfill their inner ideal ambition. You guys. In the face of the departure of many Revolutionary Army cadres, Monkey D. Dragon finally came to his senses, a look of resignation across his 8 cheeks. This ancestor of the sea, purely to hit him in the face, also killed Sabo, and anyone with a discerning eye could see that it was to kill chickens and scare monkeys. Now, Sabo's death became the catalyst, and many cadres of the Revolutionary Army ran to side with Luo Lei. Ultimately, less than 10 revolutionary troops remained standing in Monkey behind D. Dragon. 5. At this time, Luo Lei, after killing Sabo, began to report the numbers again. For him, killing a Sabo who gives face without face and tries to commit crimes in vain is just a small meaning, and it is not worth paying attention to at all. Lord Luo Lei, I have always adored you. Advertisement. Hearing these words, 4 emperors, Buggy hesitated for a long time. Ultimately flew out. In the past, he didn't have to choose to be a fake 4 emperors, now he just wants to be an ordinary sea thief. Moreover, the Cross Union is about the same, and there is not one more of him. Captain Buggy, wait for us, don't abandon us. We will swear to follow Captain Buggy to the death. Seeing that Buggy stood in line with the ancestors of the sea without a word, Mr. 3 Galdino, Mr. 1 Daz Bonus, Alvida and others looked at each other, and they reached a consensus very tacitly and followed one after another. It was not that they betrayed the Straw Hat Grand League, but wanted to have. You guys? Damn it really. Seeing this scene, Crocodile made an angry sound. He really wanted to put this group of traitors on the spot, but because of the ancestors of the sea, he could only watch Buggy and the others leave. Nope. Swish. The next moment, Crocodile gritted his teeth and caught up without hesitation. Buggy still owes him a lot of money? Now I want to run. There is no way. I have to return the money. HMPH, Crocodile's little calculation. How Hawkeye Mahawk couldn't see it, snorted coldly, and stopped talking. Hawkeye died in the hands of the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, and he would not stand with the ancestor of the sea. You guys leave. When I think of this, Hawkeye Mahawk's sharp gaze flashed a ray of essence, and he also followed at great speed. As the world's #1 sword hero, he generally does not give in easily, unless the opponent is really strong enough to make him tremble, so he can only fight the redhead shocks said sorry. Ooh. It's so fragrant to stand in line with the ancestors of the sea. And with the departure of Hawkeye, the Tien Shui Guild all chose to stand in line with the great Sea Zuso to abandon it. The sudden scene stunned countless people in an instant, and the top level of the Cross Union all chose to stand in line with the ancestors of the sea. This is the rhythm of the backstabbing Straw Hat Big League? So, in such a case, there are less than 20 people left in the Straw Hat Grand League. Looking at it, almost all of them are the pirates of the Straw Hat Pirates and Red Hair Pirates, the Whitebeard Pirates except for Marco who remained. The rest of the people also left, what Aokiji Pirates, Cross Guild, Straw Hat Big Ship Group, and those giants of the underground dark forces, etc. are all gone. That's right, even Kuzan, the boss of the Aokiji Pirates, and Kazaru, who had a leg abolished, did not know when they stood behind Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea. The meaning is simple. Advertisement their double-legged combination also chose to stand in line with the absolute advantage of the ancestor of the sea Luo Xiao Zero. Vengeance. Faced with this scene, Luo Lei nodded very satisfied. What he wants is such an effect. You Straw Hat League has a lot of people, and the comprehensive strength is very strong. But, the next second, it's all mine. Damn, Aokiji and Kazaru, you 2 traitors. Originally seeing Marine's senior management standing firmly in place, Akainu was still in a good mood, but he did not expect that Kazaru, a waste, actually chose to betray Marine. Sakazuki, now that the ancestor of the sea has become my new idol, I think it is more suitable for me to follow him than to be a Marine. Swish. The next second, after the Green Bull left a word, he flew out. As Logia's forest fruit ability, it is reasonable that he should take the team to develop wood-styled Ultimate's ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei. Poof. Hearing these words, Sakazuki was shocked, and under his anger, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Nima's, the Green Bull, one of the 3 admirals of Marine, is actually a traitor like Kazaru. Alas. That's it, in fact, Marine is not suitable for me, take another path, maybe there will be surprises. Fujitora, who was holding the staff knife, sighed, did not hesitate much, and left with a flash of his body. Damn, don't go. The Black Horse shouted, and his body flashed and chased after him. All betrayed Marine. If Green Bull's betrayal made Sakazuki angry, but Fujitora and the Dark Horse left Sakazuki a little struck, and even his soul was trembling. So far the only thing left at the top of Marine was Sakazuki, who looked incredulous. The world government is so dark. We chose 2.0 to abandon the darkness and cast light on the side of Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea. Celestial dragons, all to die. Laozi is fed up with the garbage of your garbage. 6 masked CPO chiefs, with their expressions changing at the last minute, finally made their own decision. They have been dogs for the celestial dragons for a lifetime, and now it's time to live for themselves. Standing in line with the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is undoubtedly an excellent choice. Perhaps one day in the future, they can also kill the celestial dragons and vent their inner dissatisfaction and resentment. Plus, ha 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 ha. It was at this time that Luo Lei, after shouting out the last number, showed Azu's smile, laughed arrogantly, and the crimson light in his eyes was constantly flickering. Next it is the moment of hunting of the ancestors of the sea. Chapter 137. If you have the strength, you can do whatever you want. Next it is the moment of hunting of the ancestors of the sea. And for most people's choice, Luo Lei is not surprising. Things have developed to this point. As long as not a fool knows, he has the absolute upper hand and advantage. In line with the principle of dead Taoists not dying and poor Taoists, in the difficult choice of dignity and living, the vast majority of people will definitely choose to live. Unexpectedly there is hope when you live. Of course, there is a more important reason, that is, everyone knows very well that with the unscrupulous and arbitrarily acting style of the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, saying that he wants to kill the ring, he will definitely kill the ring, and he will definitely not show mercy to his subordinates. Making the choice to take sides now may be the last chance. As for hitting, just kidding, right? 5 elders, Rayleigh, Kizaru, Sabo or bloody examples. The audience was silent. Only the unbridled laughter of the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei, remained. Listening to this laughter, Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Ember, Quinn, Hancock, Shirahoshi and others felt very comfortable, and their inner worship of Lord Luo Lei was like a gushing river. In a simple sentence, let the Straw Hat Grand League, the top of Marine, the chief of the CPO, and the Revolutionary 09 army collapse. I have to say that Lord Luo Lei's scheme is really high. On the other side, Zoro, Sanji, Uda, Robin, Beckman and others of the Straw Hat League, as well as Sakazuki of Marine, Monkey of the Revolutionary Army. D-Dragon, Ivankov and others listened to this laughter, but they felt extremely harsh, because they heard the ridicule and ridicule of Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea. Have the strength to really do whatever you want. Luo Lei virtually respects the strong, and the law of the weak is vividly expressed. And the Straw Hat Luffy, who seems to have been hit by Sabo's death, is still in a state of shock to sluggishness. At the same moment, countless people watching the live broadcast in the whole sea were also shocked by the magical operation of the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, and their hearts trembled in shock. What's the situation? The collapse of the alliance of the Straw Hat League, Marine, CPO, and the Revolutionary Army in one sentence is really too unexpected for everyone. At the same time, everyone also understands that in order to live, even people as strong as Hawkeye, Kuzan, Green Bull and others can give up their dignity, stand in line with the strong, and in order to live, they're not chilling. So much so that many people watching the live broadcast showed expressions of relief and understanding. It's not that Hawkeye Mahawk, Kuzan, Green Bull, Dark Horse, Buggy, Crocodile and others can't do it, but the opponents are too perverted, too terrifying to have to make a choice that is best for themselves. Advertisement in Naval Headquarters, seeing that only Marshal Sakazuki was left standing alone, Staff Officer Suru, Momosagi and the others were shocked, and they all showed bitter expressions. After all, it is still the ancestor of the sea. Luo Lei is superior. Among them, in addition to bitterness, Momosagi's heart also has a trace of despair, which becomes more and more terrifying with the strength Luo Lei shows. The slimmer her chances of revenge become. Think about it. She still feels a little sad. And many Marine soldiers of Naval Headquarters looked at the live broadcast picture. Almost all of them showed a look of collapse, especially after seeing Kizaru, Green Bull, Fujitora, Dark Horse and other high-end Marine combat power all surrendered to the ancestors of the sea. Faith and mentality directly collapsed. Holy Land Mariejois, between the deepest flowers of Pangu City. I am looked at Fujitora, Green Bull, Dark Horse, Kizaru, and the 6 CPO chiefs who betrayed the world government, and also gave a rare pause. Nemas. This is a betrayal of the world government, and he has not even made a move? Is this a lack of confidence in her? Damn, you all have to die. When he thought of this, a trace of coldness flashed in Im's red eyes, and he couldn't suppress the anger in his heart, and said coldly. The ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, wants to open a killing ring. Can't I open a killing ring? Wait for me, I will stab a traitor. At the same moment, above that ring, this is disintegrated. This move of the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is really vicious. It's over, in the case that the final boss of the world government does not appear. Once Luffy can't go crazy to explode, the basic trend is set. Rox, Roger, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr and others looked at each other, and each of them saw the horror in their eyes, and in a word, they changed the situation on the battlefield, and they had to be convinced. Most sons are still afraid of death. Whitebeard shook his head sarcastically, and did not blame the cadres of the Whitebeard pirate group who stood in line with the ancestors of the sea. Children and grandchildren have their own children and grandchildren. He is dead, and how the sons choose is their business. Things are not going well. Garp muttered a little unconfidently, Luffy, it's up to you. Hawkeye, you guy really doesn't talk about credit. The red-haired Shanks didn't know what to say. Sure enough, in the face of interests, friends are unreliable, and now I can only see if Luffy can burst out the real power that belongs to the sun god, Nika. Luffy, what do we do now? Kid said with an ugly expression. My men have run away, and I am the only one left. Advertisement, mine is about the same. Luo shook his head a little helplessly, and said with a bitter smile. Those guys are all scared by the ancestors of the sea, and I can't force them to stay in the Straw Hat Dalian Ming Ma. Red Hair Pirates also left a lot of people. Uda clenched his teeth and said in a deep voice. It's all a bunch of bastards who see the wind and steer the rudder. Almost all of the people of our Straw Hat group have also chosen to stand in line with the ancestors of the sea, Zoro said with a certain look in his eyes. At the critical moment, we have to rely on ourselves. Germa 66 is also gone. Sanji's expression was also a little ugly. He didn't think of Reiju, IG and the others, and he didn't think well of them, saying that standing in line with the ancestors of the sea was for the good of the Vince Moke family. This made Sanji want to say something harsh, but she didn't say anything. After all, the strength of the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is so obvious that all cruel words will be pale. As for Robin, Nami, Usopp, Chopper and others, although they did not speak, the expressions on their faces were also very solemn and solemn. Alas! Hearing these words, Beckman picked up his cigarette dejectedly and took a puff before sighing heavily. Everyone underestimated the strength of the sea ancestor, Luo Lei, and now, the Straw Hat League is falling apart, which is also very normal, and it is very understandable for everyone to stand in line with the sea ancestor people. Damn, Lord I Am won't let you go. Suddenly at this time 503. A terrifying heat wave erupted all over Sakazuki's body, and he roared. Since you have chosen to succumb to evil, then I declare as Marshal Marine, Kizaru, Green Bull, Fujitora is stripped of his position as Marine Admiral, and Dark Horse is stripped of his post as Director of the Criminal Investigation Bureau. How scary. Kizaru wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looked at his discarded right leg, and made a disapproving sound. It doesn't matter, Green Bull, Fujitora, Black Horse shrugged his shoulders disapprovingly, ignoring Sakazuki at all. Since they had already made their choice, they already knew the consequences. Maybe I Am would not let them go, but it is also necessary for I Am to defeat the ancestors of the sea first. No doubt they don't think that I Am, who has been hiding his head all along, can defeat Luo Lei. Do it. At this time, Monkey D. Dragon clenched his fists, suppressed the anger in his heart, and directly ordered crisply. No matter what, from the killing of his father, Garp, to the killing of Sabo, the frightened cadres of the Revolutionary Army betrayed the Revolutionary Army. The ancestor of the sea has provoked the anger in his heart. Even if he knows that Luo Lei is very strong, he can't bear it. Let him give Luffy a head start. The next moment, with a terrifying devil fruit power gushing out, a hurricane that seemed to destroy the world formed a white shockwave, sweeping towards Luo Lei at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Apparently, the dragon of the Revolutionary Army is the ability of Logia Hurricane Fruit. Chapter 138 Kill the Dragon in Seconds, The Unbearable King Luffy. With Monkey D. Dragon's hands on, the wind and clouds suddenly became more on the ring. Perhaps knowing that those black balls are terrible, the white shockwave formed by the hurricane, after accumulating and compressing a lot of energy, Monkey D. Dragon also deliberately controlled and avoided those black balls, and finally, in front of everyone's eyes, it bombarded Luo Xiao's body fiercely. There is no imaginary sound of explosion, because the moment it attacked Luo Lei, a new truth-seeking ball appeared in front of Luo Lei, turning into a shield and blocking it. When the white shockwave bombards the shield, even if it is mixed with armament haki, conqueror's haki, and the power of the hurricane fruit, all of them were instantly fused by the power of the 5 elements of yin and yang, and the truth-seeking ball, which could easily exert the power of transcending the blood succession limit and blood succession elimination, collapsed and turned into a breeze without any lethal power. How is that possible? Seeing this scene, although Monkey D. Dragon's expression changed suddenly, and he couldn't help but let out an exclamation. You know, this time the attack was a blow. He tried his best, but it still had no effect. What kind of energy is that black ball? Nope, wouldn't you? Ivankov, Lightning and other cadres of the Revolutionary Army, who were about to start, saw that the dragon leader's attack did not even set off the slightest splash, and his body instantly became stiff, and his eyes stood in place without a god, looking extremely desperate and helpless. Too strong. How can the sea have such pervert people? Dare to do it, then you will die. Swish, it's like teleportation. Luo Lei's body appeared in monkey in front of D-Dragon, a crazy and violent smile flashed on his cheeks, and as soon as his right fist was clenched, the liquid-like truth-seeking ball was wrapped around his fist, and he blasted out with a punch without hesitation. There is nothing to say, for these faceless guys, he will not show mercy to his subordinates. Dare to take the initiative, isn't it proper to find death? So fast, not good, there is simply no way to hide. Monkey D. Dragon's pupils contracted violently a few times, subconsciously urging armament haki and conqueror's haki to an ultimate, trying to resist the blow. However, how terrifying the ancestors of the 6 paths are today, his so-called resistance is meaningless. Advertisement click click. This is the sound of a crack in space. Let Monkey D. Dragon was dumbfounded that the fist had not yet acted on him, and the armament hockey and conqueror's hockey condensed in his body had begun to disintegrate, and in desperation, he entered elementalization. Bang! A crisp sound sounded, almost as if it were devastated, and entered the elementalized Monkey D. Dragon's chest disappeared directly, perhaps because the aftermath was too strong, and even the only remaining Revolutionary Army cadres standing behind him were all blasted alive and turned into several clouds of blood mist. Dead. After all, the gap in strength is still too big. Luffy, it's up to you. Dad goes first, and in the last second of life. Monkey D. Dragon rarely showed any panic, but showed a relieved expression. He has been worthy of anyone in his life, except for his son, Luffy, and Ivankov behind him, Lightning and other Revolutionary Army cadres who have always supported him. Now dead, it can also be regarded as the realization of the final salvation. As for the Revolutionary Army, in fact, there has been no need for its existence for a long time. Because, the emergence of the ancestors of the sea has made the rule of the world government precarious, and judging from the current situation, it is only a matter of time before the world government is overthrown. After the destruction of the Revolutionary Army with one punch, time and space seem to be frozen at such a moment, whether it is the people in the ring, or the countless people watching the live broadcast in the sea, they are all self-luminous and godless. No way from Monkey D. Dragon started, and then Luo Lei destroyed the Revolutionary Army with one punch, less than 5 seconds before and after, and many people did not react, and saw the Revolutionary Army destroyed by one blow. Terrible. It's really terrifying. That's right, the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is very strong. After crushing the 5 elders, everyone is mentally prepared, but killing the Revolutionary Army in the blink of an eye still makes people's scalps tingle for a while, and their hearts are blank. Gollum. Gollum. Phew. A few seconds later, those Revolutionary Army cadres who had just chosen to stand in line with the ancestors of the sea swallowed their saliva with hindsight, and couldn't help but wipe a wisp of cold sweat that overflowed from their foreheads. If they had just chosen to continue to stand in the Revolutionary Army, wouldn't they all be dead now? Really, they made a wise choice. In addition to them, people such as Hawkeye Mahawk, Buggy, Crocodile, Kizaru, Kuzan, Green Bull, Dark Horse, etc. who chose to stand in line with Luo Lei also involuntarily showed a worried expression. It's about the same as they guessed. Today's Luo Lei has reached an unknown realm. Advertisement as the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Monkey D. Dragon's strength is undoubted, but it is crushed by no resistance, which is enough to prove that this gap in strength is already the difference between heaven and earth. Alas! Garp looked a little gloomy, opened his mouth, but sighed. His son, Monkey D. Dragon, is dead, and now he can only expect his grandson to erupt and avenge them. It's so invincible. Sengoku, Rox, Roger, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr and others, in addition to the horror in their hearts, are a bitter laugh. In the face of such a terrifying sea ancestor, could anyone really stop him? They all expressed doubts. Dead? Luo, Kid, Zoro, Sanji, Robin and others lost their minds for a moment, before gradually slowing down, and then looked at Luffy with brushed eyes. Since Sabo was killed, Luffy fell into shock, and has not come back to his senses until now. As everyone knows, now Luffy is on the verge of a collapse explosion. Grandpa Garp died, Sabo died, the Straw Hat Major League fell apart, and Father Monkey D. Dragon was killed in seconds, and countless painful emotions surged wildly in Luffy's heart. Meanwhile, seeing the Revolutionary Army being killed in seconds. Sakazuki, who was originally still imposing, was suddenly startled, just as Luo Lei looked at him again, directly making Sakazuki feel like he was being targeted by the desolate beast, and the cells in his body were trembling madly. 012211509233211521. Zhao is extremely dangerous. Sakazuki clenched his fists, a trace of cold sweat overflowed from his forehead, and he wanted to fight back and say a cruel word, but found that he couldn't open his mouth at all. But at such a moment that made Sakazuki desperate. Rumble. There has been no hands-on. Luffy, who fell into a state of lost soul, suddenly erupted into a violent momentum like destroying the world. Then, under the watchful eye of countless lights, Luffy's hair and clothes turned white, her hair became like flames, and steam streamers wrapped around her neck and armpits like a fourth gear. No doubt experienced by Sabo and his father, Monkey after the blow of D. Dragon's tragic death, 4 Emperors. Luffy couldn't bear it anymore and directly entered the 5th awakening state. This ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, must die. Since he dares to make me feel pain, then I will also let him feel pain. Chapter 139. Slap the Flying King. Luffy, this ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, must die. Since he dares to let me feel the pain, then I will also let him feel the pain of the heart. Based on this thought, Luffy, who had entered the 5th awakening state, was completely crazy under the blessing of the painful emotions in his heart, and the breath on his body soared rapidly, directly shaking the air in this sea area with a wisp of cracks. If you can't bear it, you don't need to bear it anymore. He, Monkey D. Luffy, must make Luo Lei, the ancestor of the sea, pay the price of blood. This is his belief and will. He will never back down and be afraid. He will only be more and more courageous, and go forward bravely until he defeats the ancestors of the sea. The next moment, a monstrous momentum enveloped the entire ring, moving in all directions. Perhaps the power of the explosion was too great, so that the ring, which had been motionless, began to tremble slightly. Straw Hat Luffy finally broke out. Such a powerful conqueror's haki, under the blessing of anger, seems to make heaven and earth tremble slightly. So strong, not good, Luffy is in a state of madness. Sensing this fury to Ultimate's conqueror's haki. The only remaining Zoro, Ro, Kid, Robin, Usopp, Uda and others in the Straw Hat Grand League couldn't help but make an uproar, and the eyes looking at Luffy were full of worry. Because the current Luffy 287 feels more pervert and cold than when it was out of control on Egg Tip Island, the whole person seems to be in a state of extreme madness shrouded in pain. Ha ha ha, Straw Hat Luffy is finally breaking out. No matter how angry and powerful Conqueror's haki erupts, Luffy will be by Lord Luo Lei all at once. The outbreak of Straw Hat Luffy will only make the ancestors of the sea more excited. Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Ember, Quinn, Katakuri and others showed disdainful expressions, without any fear, and a faint sarcastic expression on their cheeks. Especially Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, their eyes showed a cold look unabashedly. This Luffy is more powerful than it was when he defeated them, but useful. No matter how powerful it is, it will only be defeated by Lord Luo Lei once, and it will never be surpassed. Come on. Garp took a deep breath and muttered, "My good grandson, you must win." The power to erupt now is not enough, and it needs to continue to erupt under the blessing of pain and indignation. The red-haired Shocks also showed an expectant expression and muttered, "As long as you can exert the true power of the sun god Nika and wake up Joey Boy, then everything will still have aldehyde." Advertisement, is the real big war about to begin? Rox, Roger, Golden Lion Shiki, Whitebeard, Zephyr and others looked at each other, and they could see the look of anticipation in their eyes. If Luffy is really crazy, maybe he really has the power to fight. It is not impossible to give a fiasco to the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei. It's okay. See Luffy erupt, Sakazuki couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, and the whole person relaxed at once. Just targeted by the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei. He had a certain feeling that he was going to die, but fortunately, Straw Hat Luffy suddenly erupted, attracting fire for him. Now, he can watch the play for a while, come and wait for the opportunity to move, waiting for Lord I Am to rob him. Thinking of this, Sakazuki's cold eyes casually glanced at Kizaru, Green Bull, Fujitora, Dark Horse, and the 6 chief CPOs. Since these guys chose to be traitors, they definitely had to pay a bloody price. Meanwhile, countless people watching the live broadcast in the entire sea also showed their expressions of watching the play. With so many killed, the Straw Hat League also fell apart. In Monkey after D-Dragon was killed, Luffy, the Straw Hat of his son, finally broke out, but he didn't know how long he could last under the hands of the ancestors of the sea. For a time, even the Crane staff officer of the naval headquarters, Momosagi, and countless marine soldiers all showed shocked expressions, and there was only one thought in their hearts. That's at the critical moment. Does the world government still have to rely on a sea thief, a J, to stabilize the situation of the sea and turn the tide? Meanwhile, why? After entering the Ren fruit, phantom beast species, and Nika form, Luffy, who showed a painful face, suddenly looked at Luo Lei and said violently, "As a top powerhouse, you act recklessly, you can do whatever you want, don't you have a little pursuit and bottom limit?" Airplanes. As Luffy speaks, with him as the center, the wooden ring began to be gradually assimilated into rubber. Huh. Advertisement listening to this sentence. Luo Lei showed Azu's smile and said very solemnly, "I'm sorry, having strength means being able to do whatever you want." VR. Straw Hat Luffy gritted his teeth frantically and said coldly, "Very good, really good, the ancestor of the sea. Luo Lei, I will definitely make you pay. I will never forgive you." After saying this, Straw Hat Luffy's eyes also overflowed with a trace of tears, and there was undisguised monstrous killing intent in his eyes. Since East Blue, he has never wanted to kill a person like today. This sea ancestor constantly challenges his bottom limit. Hancock, Shirahoshi, Kazuki Hiyori was snatched away. The Fishmen Island also changed flags. Peach, Grandpa Garp, Father Long, Teacher Rayleigh, Sabo and others were mercilessly blasted. One thing. Luffy can still endure. 2 things. Luffy continues to endure. 3 things. Luffy gritted her teeth and can endure. But this sea ancestor man repeatedly, again and again, 3 and 4. He really couldn't bear it. Even if he knew that the strength of the sea ancestor Luo Lei was very strong, he would explode madly. Carrying the hopes and expectations of many people. He is convinced that he can create a super miracle that shocks the entire sea. Rubber Tyrant King Ape Gun. It seemed that the more he thought about it, the more angry he became, and the more he thought about it, Luffy's fist clenched, and a wisp of Conqueror's haki wrapped around his fist, wanting to attack. What are you? Pity. Luo Lei didn't give Luffy a chance to make a move, and a flash came to him and slapped him directly. Nemas, don't give you a little color, you still kick your nose on your face. Do you really think you're awesome? 5th gear. Is it strong? Laozi is fighting the sun god Nika. Syllable. A crisp voice sounded. Luffy, who is in 5th gear, has not yet reacted. It was slapped out by Luo Lei and smashed on the ground hundreds of meters away, emitting a deafening roar, and the powerful force made the ring tremble. Chapter 140. Luffy's despair. No, one more kneeling and begging to subscribe. But because the wooden ring is extremely hard, Luffy smashed in the ring and did not make any holes. The powerful force still made him, who had entered the 5th gear state, couldn't help but spew out a mouthful of blood. Of course, and physical pain and vomiting blood, in comparison. The mental blow and injury is what makes Luffy desperate and powerless. You know, the peak state of the 5th gear he has entered now is stronger than when he defeated Kaido of the Beast's Yamato is terrifying. Not only has tenacious vitality and super recovery power, but also has extremely powerful strength and attack power. The result? It's just beginning to break out. Without any resistance, he was slapped out by the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei. It's really shocking. Originally, in Luffy's imagination, as long as he could burst out the strongest power, he should have a chance to defeat the sea ancestors. The ideal is very full, the reality is very skinny. Even if he broke out, it didn't seem to have any effect. Looking at this scene, the faces of Zoro, Sanji, Luo, Kid, Robin and others suddenly froze, and a lot of cold sweat overflowed from their foreheads to show a very unbelievable look. What's the situation? Luffy burst out with such a powerful momentum. Even the ring was about to be rubberized, but it was so easily slapped away? Impossible, right? Although I know that the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, is very strong, but how can it be so powerful that it is so inexplicable? The power of armament haki, observation haki, conqueror's haki, devil fruit, etc., seems to have no effect, except to be crushed as crushed. I'm afraid it's not a monster, no, an undead demon, right? Sure enough. Sakazuki showed an expression that he had expected and involuntarily took a few steps back. That's right, he was waiting for Lord I Am to make a strong appearance. Now the ancestors of the sea, Luo Lei, Monkey D. Luffy have appeared. Lord I Am will certainly not let go of such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the commander-in-chief of the whole army who does not know what to do. Kong has not shown any signs that the world government has a backhand to wipe out these evils in front of him. Once Lord I Am strikes, it will be time for him to punch a traitor. The gap in strength is too big. Luffy was already strong after the outburst, but met a more pervert ancestor of the sea. Shi Yi is also fateful. Maybe the ancestor of the sea Luo Lei is really not Monkey Luffy. Seeing this scene, Roger, Rox, Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr and others all involuntarily made a sighing sound, and their eyes were full of regret when they looked at Luffy. Especially One Piece Roger, a wisp of gloom flashed across his cheeks. In all fairness, with Monkey D. Luffy's ability and style, it is really possible to become the new One Piece and lead the change of the entire sea. Pity. I met a sea ancestor who had been dead for more than 40 years and resurrected, and now all his luck has been plundered by Luo Lei, and it can only be said that Luffy was born in the wrong era. Isn't it okay? Garp's expression sank, and he couldn't help but clench his fists. Don't worry, Luffy is not dead yet, there should still be a chance to break out. Sengoku hesitated for a moment before saying in a deep voice. As long as Luffy can burst out the true power of the sun god Nika, even if he can't win Luo Lei, he can retreat with his whole body. Garp suppressed his tormented heart and was forced to pretend to be calm. Now it's like a marionette. Advertisement, I can only stand here and watch everything happen. Ha ha ha, Straw Hat Luffy, are you like this? At this time, Kaido of the Beasts couldn't help but let out a proud laugh after slowing down, and said violently, I let you learn emission with 1 stick, Conqueror's Haki Entanglement with 3 sticks, and Rubber Fruit in the form of Nika Fruit with 3 sticks. When it comes to this, Kaido of the Beasts couldn't help but show a playful expression. Now that Lord Luo Lei slapped him, have you understood anything? Fast. Tell us about it. Luffy, stand up and continued to erupt. Hearing this, Charlotte Lynn grinned and responded very comfortably, please show the courage and confidence that hit us at Wanokuni. In the face of absolute power, no matter how it breaks out, it will have no effect. Is this Luffy really laughing dead, obviously a pirate, but self-proclaimed as an adventurer? He didn't pursue wealth and kill, but he released countless sea thieves and impelled down, and he really became and wanted to set up a Torii. The most ridiculous thing is that Straw Hat Luffy also stands on the moral high ground and accuses Lord Luo Lei, saying that Lord Luo Lei can do whatever he wants when he has the strength, and he himself is not the same. Without strength, background, and some aura, I am afraid that I will not die long ago. With the beginnings of Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Lin, Ember, Quinn, Jack, Parasparrow, and some of the pirates of the Straw Hat Grand League who chose the Team Sea ancestor, Luo Lei, all let out a sneer. There is nothing to say, the sea is the law of the jungle and strength is king. This Straw Hat Luffy really thought that the whole sea would revolve around him. It's really a habitual problem, or feel the beating from society. Why bother? Hancock, Shirahoshi, Kazuki Hiyori all showed expressions of emotion. This Luffy, it's really bad. If you don't have strength, don't pretend. It's good now got slapped away, right? Don't you know, without Garp, Monkey D. Dragon, red-haired Shocks and others, no one will give you face, and will not be used to you. Maybe you are very strong in strength and talent, and you have also developed Rubber Fruit to the form of everyone's fruit, Phantom Beast species, and Nika, but what's the use of facing Lord Luo Lei? Can only be crushed. As for the countless people watching the live broadcast on the sea, they also showed very speechless expressions. Nemas, after this Straw Hat Luffy entered the 5th gear, he burst out with a monstrous aura. How powerful did he think it would be? The result? Is that all? It's so unsatisfactory? At the same moment, I barely exerted myself just now, you should still be standing, right? Luo Lei's body was suspended in midair, looking down at Luffy who was paralyzed on the ground, and said flatly. If your strength is this, then I don't even have the mood to kill you, it's really too bad. What did you say? Hearing these words, Luffy, who was in the 5th gear, suppressed his inner depression, gritted his teeth and stood up from the ring, staring at Luo Lei in midair with his eyes deadly, his eyes full of solemnity and murder. All right. Even if it is very resilient, in fact, you can also see Luffy's already red and swollen cheeks. This is also what Luffy did not understand. After he awakened, his body became rubber, with excellent elasticity and ductility. It is reasonable to say that it will not be red and swollen and vomit blood, but the black energy on Luo Lei's slap seemed to ignore this. It's just uncomfortable, but as the hope of the whole village. Even if he was slapped in the face, he already had a feeling of despair in his heart. He will not give up. 1 outbreak is not enough, then 2 times is not enough, then 3 times, anyway, he will not give up. 0. Asking for flowers. The next moment, the white light on Luffy, who was in the state of Nika, shook up, erupted with a terrifying momentum, swept out with lightning speed, making the air in this sea area tremble frantically. Faintly even this space began to rubberize, and Luffy is the absolute king of this space. Me. Luffy will never throw in the towel. Rubber, big, Ape King gun. Advertisement swish. A sound of breaking the air sounded. Luffy, who is in the 5th super peak state, has expanded his fist hundreds of times in size, even if it is wrapped by armament hockey and conqueror's hockey. The fist that emits a pitch-black metallic luster has not yet attacked Luo Lei, and the rubberized space has begun to imprison Luo Lei's body. Powerful. Luffy's blow is absolutely powerful. The next moment, the Overlord Ape King spear bombarded Luo Lei with a destructive force, because the fist was too large, and it gave people the illusion of crushing. Interesting. Sensing the gradually rubberized space, Luo Lei showed an interested expression, glanced at the Overlord Ape King spear that was coming at him, and did not dodge, so lightly suspended in midair. Zero thundered. With a deafening roar, the Overlord Ape King's spear with majestic power bombarded Luo Lei's body fiercely, erupting into an earth-shattering energy shockwave, perhaps too strong, causing wisps of black cracks visible to the naked eye to appear in the space. However, the destructive power is terrible. As the target of the attack, Luo Lei's body was not injured at all, or more precisely, he did not even frown, and he was suspended under the big Ape King gun. Impossible. See this scene. Luffy made an incredulous sound. He had thought of many possibilities, but he did not expect that the ancestor of the sea would levitate in midair and let him attack, and even more. What made him unbelievable was that the attack he was proud of did not break even the slightest defense against Luo Lei, let alone make him take a step back. Is this a bit of a blow? Rubber, big, Ape King gun. Rubber cannonball, rubber, boss, King Ape gun. Rubber King Ape boomerang, soon with unwilling shouts of anger. Luffy, who was in the 5th super peak state, launched a dazzling, scalp-numbing attack. Whether it was the people on the scene or the countless people watching the live broadcast, they were in a state of stunned. No way, it's really Luffy's various attacks. It's terrible. It seems to destroy the heavens and the earth. As a result, a large-scale rift appeared in the space where the sea ancestor was located, and in an instant, all the sea ancestor, Luo Lei, was swallowed. For a second, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. With the passage of time, it wasn't until 3 minutes later that Luffy, who was at her super peak in 5th gear, stopped. Quiet. The audience was silent. No one spoke. They all looked at Luo Lei, which was already covered by spatial rifts, whereas, as the spatial rifts repaired and disappeared, about 20 seconds later, the ancestor of the sea, Luo Lei, was suspended in place intact. No, faced with such a scene, Luffy, who was in the 5th super peak state, let out a desperate roar.